commercial sponsored by THOR Radio Network.
Come listen to a lion roar.
Hotep. It's your brother Baniti. Amun-Ra back with another post. Kind of what I want to talk about today. People just not getting it, but we'll address a few topics. Obviously, the big thing this week in the news. I'm going to show you the significance of it. With the Pope visiting the United States, as you know, he visited several places here in New York, Philadelphia, and some other places. I'm going to confirm to you now something that's been happening for the last several years, that religion itself is pretty much dead. It's dying mentality, and the only people that still really follow it are insecure people and people that can't deal with reality or can't handle the truth, or people that cling on to these faith and belief systems. Here's a confirmation that religion is dead. I'm going to read a statement from the Pope, which I found very interesting. Okay? And I quote, "It is not necessary," this is the Pope talking now, this is so-called, to Catholics, God's representation on earth, his successor on earth. Again, he quotes, "It is not necessary to believe in God to be a good person. In a way, the traditional notion of God is outdated. One can be spiritual, but not religious. It is not necessary to go to church and give money. For many, nature can be a church. Some of the best people in history did not believe in God, while some of the worst deeds were done in his name." Now, that's putting a whole wrench in this game, religion. Here is the Pope, the leader of the Catholic Church, saying you don't need to go to church, you don't need to give money. To some people, nature is a church. Okay? You don't need to be religious, you can be spiritual. Now, if that's not confirming that times are changing, and we know the origin of Christianity and all other sects of Christianity branched out from the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church has always been a very outdated, chauvinistic, racist, one way or their way or no way at all, judgmental type of institution for hundreds of years. Here you have the leader of their church now making this statement, which I agree with it 100%. Now, what most people don't know about this Pope, this is more of a Pope that relates to the people. Now, why I bring this up? To address all the fanatics now, okay? With the Pope coming visiting the United States, I was in the barbershop a couple days back, and I'm listening to these spooky-ass Christians trying to tie his visit to the United States and the Illuminati and all this religious conspiracy. Tonight, as of the recording of this video, September 28th, we had a lunar eclipse. It goes to show the weakness of weak-minded religious people when any type of phenomenon happens in nature, or they'll take the visit of the Pope, and they always tie it into their religious bullshit, and it has nothing to do with anything that they're talking about. Again, this reflects a weak-minded individual's mentality. For people that can't grasp reality, these are your people that are still stuck in religions today. You might say to yourself, why is it I turn on the TV? And it's for a reason. And you look at these evangelists, and they're filling up auditoriums by the thousands. Okay? At the same token that's happened, they have to promote that and put that out there publicly to make it look like it's still vibrant and alive. But there's many more people waking up, gravitating away from that bullshit, because they see the sign of the times. And I've said this, and you can go back to many of the older classes that I've done. Nature will reflect what's going on. When you go back to our ancient systems, whether it's Egypt, whether it's the Yoruba, whether it's the Native Americans, the shaman culture, there was always a nature-based root in those systems of ancestral worship. If we, again, move along and change with nature, this shit is all relevant to us, because when you're able to chart the movement of the planets, when you're able to know the seasonal changes of the equinoxes, and you know the positioning of the planet and the signs that it moves through, you're able to correlate the things that are going on in nature, whether it's the movement of the moon, the sun, etc. We know, according to our ancient calendars, whether it's the calendar at Dendera in ancient Egypt, okay, whether you go back to the Native American cultures, say the Mayans, who, as we talked about on some previous classes, the Dresden Codex and the Mayan calendar, we've always charted these great catastrophic events, calamities, etc. So as ancestral people, this is a great sign to us that we're in tune. This is not something we fear, we run from, or as weak-minded religious people do, they correlate it to their doomsday bullshit.
There's a feather. Anu is balancing the judgment of Ma'at right here. We did not worship animals. They represented zoomorphic forms. And here you see Amit looking to see Tahuti writing down the deeds of Oni as he lived on earth. And Tahuti is the one that gave us writing. It's Tahuti from the spiritual mystery system. It's Tahuti who gave the great law and also gave the call that a set was going to give forth the Immaculate Conception. But let's go on to see that Haru right here has the key in order for Oni to go into the spiritual realm. As we get in Matthews, that you must have the key to enter the kingdom of heaven, right? But yet, as he comes, and you see in the spiritual realm, all the Netarus sitting on the square. How many are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Asar is the one who made the judgment that made 13. This is where they created their judicial system off of your African ancestral spiritual system. The 12 jurors, and also the judge makes 13, who that represented Asar. And then you also had to sit on the square. What was the square? That was the witness stand, where you had to have the mak karu. You had to be truth of words in order to be on the spiritual realm, as you see like Oni make it into the spiritual realm. Right. That also was incorporated into Christianity, where you see the 12 apostles, and Jesus makes 13. Yeah. This is all part of the resurrection and to be reborn again. But where do we find our African spiritual mystery system at? That means the scale of judgment and the square and the key. Let's go right on the dollar bill, and you see the scale for judgment and the key, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and the square, copy from your African necessine of judgment, the square, 13, the key, and the judgment. Your system is here. I don't want to hear about that black stuff. I don't want to hear about Africa. No, they don't want us to open up. They're trying to suppress this knowledge, because what happens when you unlock the key, unlock the Western Masonic order, and enter the secret of your ancestral sacred knowledge, brothers and sisters? That is the key. And brothers talk about, I got the secret. You ain't got no secret. The secret is your African ancestral knowledge that you see right here. So that's why the white boys came in, just sit in and chisel out. They're going to talk about graffiti and defacement of America's temples and murals and so forth. Look what they did to your ancestral temples of the goddess Aset and the great god Hasaru. Why? Because your ancestors produced the first African god who gave forth of a virgin birth, the first goddess who gave forth an immaculate conception, the Sarah, the Son of God. They even tell you right here, little folk, reverence for the Egyptian goddess Isis and her son Horus, shown at your right, an Egyptian statue of the Ptolemaic period, was easily converted to the veneration of Mary and Jesus. The 4th century fresco at the far left, and a Madonna and child adorned in the Coptic monastery. They said it was easily converted. So let's see how easy it was converted. Dr. John G. Jackson, in his book, Christianity Before Christ tells us, and even Church Ward tells us. Now, let's look at Horus. Horus had two mothers, Isis, the virgin who conceived him, Nefertiti, who nursed him. He was brought forth singly as one of the five brothers. Let's look at the life of Jesus. Jesus had two mothers, Mary, the virgin who conceived him, and Mary, the wife of Cleophas, who brought him forth as one of her children. Brother, can you be by the lens a little bit? I mean, I don't know if you can see it's out of focus. I know I can see it's out of focus. Horus was the son of Seth, his father on earth. Jesus was the son of Joseph, his father on earth. Let's look at Horus now. Horus was with his mother, the virgin, until 12 years old, when he was transformed into the beloved son, the God, as the only begotten of the Father in heaven. Jesus remained with the mother, the virgin, up until the age of 12, when he left her to be about his father's business. From 12 to 30 years of age, there is no record in the life of Horus. From 12 to 30 years of age, there is no record in the life of Jesus. And Horus at 30 years of age became a dog in his baptism by Amun. Jesus at 30 years of age was made a man in his baptism by John the Baptist. Horus in his baptism made his transformation into the beloved Son, the only begotten of the Father, the Holy Spirit, represented by a bird. Jesus in his baptism is hailed from heaven as the beloved Son and the only begotten of the Father, the God, the Holy Spirit, that is represented by a dove. That's why they tell you right here, it was easily converted to veneration to the Mary and Jesus. This is your goddess Aset, waiting for you to come back home. Yeah. Waiting for you to come back and pay homage to her. Yeah. This is where the story was copied and manipulated down through the ages. In fact, she was worshipped throughout Europe during what is called the Herculaneum worship of Isis. So even throughout Europe at one time, they worshipped her. And now she's waiting for you to come back. Waiting for you to come back and pay homage to her. Waiting for you to open up your African ancestral genetic memory bank and let your story come in. What makes the European Jesus and Mary more sacred than your ancestors, Madonna and Child?
The spread of belief in the afterlife affected more than just the newly emerging middle class. Some scholars say the Book of the Dead influenced Jewish and Christian scripture.
Ancient Christianity owes a great deal to ancient Egypt for its concept of heaven. This makes sense because most of the early Christian fathers were native Egyptians. And so when documents were being written concerning the nature and substance of the afterlife, since these things were not originally written in the Bible, the ancient Egyptians sort of filled in the blanks. The idea of spending one's afterlife with your loved ones in a pleasant place where you could do what you like is the same in both Christianity and in ancient Egyptian religion.
There's even a case to be made that the Egyptian Book of the Dead influenced New Testament and Christian religious imagery.
It's very clear when we study the history of the New Testament that, in fact, their main competition for the religion of Jesus was the religion of Isis and Osiris and their child, Horus. Many of the early figurations of the Virgin Mary sitting with baby Jesus on her lap are actually based on Isis statues, where Isis is holding Pharaoh, now her symbolic son.
One of the first people to notice the connection between the Book of the Dead and the Bible was Wallis Budge.
The fact remains the Egyptians did believe in one God. Osiris, who had lived upon the earth, had suffered a cruel death and had risen from the dead. There is no doubt that certain views and religious ideas of Christian sects may be traced directly to the Egyptians.
It's interesting to see how people's ethical beliefs and religious beliefs, no matter where they are from or what century they were sort of written in, all have a great deal in common.
Now that's Wallis Budge, talking about your African ancestral history. Now let's break it down. Okay. On this relief, brothers and sisters, you can see many concepts where they came in, as I said, like scavengers, and picked different pieces. On this particular relief, you can see where the Western world, through Judaism, took a piece of a concept of the creation story from. You can see where the Greek philosophers took a concept of Greek philosophy from. And you can also see where Christianity took a concept, European Christianity took a concept from. So let's break it down. Again, carved in stone on the temple of Aset, right here on the island of Philae. It is here. It tells where the Western world literally came like scavengers and took various scenes to make up the Western world. And one of those scenes is we see that Hermes Trismegistus in Greek mythology, they literally took it from Tahuti. It is here that our ancestors had a study from the 42 books of Tahuti, representing science, law, and intelligence, who was represented as the ibis bird that you saw. We saw those little white birds that we saw come over here. So our ancestors looked at nature. We didn't worship the bird, but it was an attribute of science, attribute of intelligence. Tahuti writing down the deeds of our life on earth as we lived here. This is where the Western philosophical thought, Greeks took their concept of Hermes Trismegistus from Tahuti, now called thought too. So we see Judaism took God Khnum fashioning man out of clay and called him Jehovah. Notice the God Khnum fashioning man on the potter's wheel out of clay. This is where Judaism took a portion of this to make up their Genesis story with the Sanhedrins around 250 BC. From this relief right here of God fashioning man and woman on the potter's wheel. And they took other concepts of Atum from Heliopolis creation story, or the city of On, to make up their Adam as a man, when actually it was Atum the sun. And we see European Christianity took from the goddess Isis and Horus and made up the European, again, let me express, the European version of Mary and Jesus. Copied directly from these reliefs right here. So you got Greek philosophy, where they took from Tahuti and called it Hermes Trismegistus. You got the Jehovah Genesis creation story and the Bible, where they took from Khnum fashioning man on the potter's wheel out of clay, and they turned it into making man out of clay, Adam out of clay. And you also got Christianity right here showing Isis lactating or breastfeeding the holy child Horus, who was born of immaculate conception and virgin birth. Three concepts just from this one relief. You see? All carved in stone. As you can see the line, one dark, one light, showing this temple was under the water. Nobody could come back and read this. And that's why over here, if you look against this wall right here, much of it, they try to chisel it all out. But our ancestors wrote endlessly as though one day we would forget our story. One day we would not know who we are. One day that the only thing that we put on our genetic memory bank would be an alien, a conqueror's story. In our mind, our story would not be told. And that's why Justinian in the 6th century AD came in and closed these temples down, because they were copying Christianity, the theological concepts from African people. And we'll get more into that during the lecture when we have the lecture series this afternoon. I want to even go further to show you, sisters, that y'all sacred. You are goddesses. And that's the problem with the brother today, because they took that concept out of his consciousness. That's why the rap groups around there calling her the bees and stuff. Huh? Okay, now look. Isis holding the Ankh of life. We know what the Ankh of life now is, a symbol of her uterus, right? So here, again, I show you, showing where the holy child is coming from her womb. See the loop? That's why she's holding it, because she wants the first immaculate conception and the first holy birth is going to come from her. So she's holding the Ankh for life. Can you see it? Not too much glare there, right? That's why the Europeans, when Justinian and the boys Theodosius, they came in, they tried to chisel it out. Couldn't deal with the real immaculate conception, but they weren't talking about one immaculate conception. Our ancestors were telling us on these reliefs that every woman could produce an immaculate conception, provided that she was on the spiritual level and the man was on the spiritual level. The both of them coming together produced immaculate virgin birth, which means a clean birth. But notice they chiseled out the Ankh, the top part of it, because that represents the womb. But the other part they kept there to represent the crucifix. You see? That symbol that they didn't take or didn't chisel out was a symbol of the cross. They didn't chisel that one out. So this is another picture of Constantine. Constantine's vision of the cross, which he is playing to this symbol, Sec Vincius. And this symbol we shall conquer. Through this symbol we shall conquer. Supposedly Constantine got the cross out on the battlefield. Another picture, but now that we know that Constantine came here, now we know where in fact Constantine got the cross from? Huh? Right off of your ancestral temples. Has nothing to do with, this is blowing here, has nothing to do with no crucifixion or human sacrifice. Europeans corrupted it. Now we have no understanding or meaning of what the cross means today. And chisel out the Ankh, which is a symbol for life.
This commercial is sponsored by THOR Radio Network.
Welcome to THOR Radio Network, Black and White Friday. Today's January the 15th, 2016. You are listening to the THOR Radio Network. I'm the host and founder, Brother Sharif. And today's Black and White Friday. And at the top of today's show, our returning, back by popular demand, our brother Mike, also known as Brother Baniti Amun-Ra, will be here today. And we're going to do some black magic, occultism, self-mastery. And we're going to discuss what's commonly known as the Bible, religion, relationship, sex, mental power, spiritual power, emotionalism, mentalism. We're going to try to touch it all. The last show was very powerful. I thank all of you for participating in that show. I had numerous requests to bring Brother Mike back so we can dive into some self-healing and things of that nature that the community needs. Y'all know yours truly is not interested in a whole lot of masturbation. I like to get to the centerpiece of whatever the source of energy is from any topic. I know I believe in subject matter, not arguments, not rhetoric. But let's get to the heart of things. We're going to do that today again. The opening clip was Brother Mike and another master teacher that we hope you'll be hearing more from. And I think it's pretty clear because we have to go back to the beginning. I think what we see now even going on in our commercial world, United States of America, Africa, whatever you want to call it, everybody's trying to go back to some original source. Well, we can't go back to that original source unless we go back into the source that you were listening to in the beginning clip, because that is the original source, regardless of where it points to, who it points to, how it points to them. That is the source. Okay? And I think we have to stop playing around with the fact that we have to go back to some source from 1910 or from 1857. No, let's rewind all the way back to the beginning. How about that? Let's rewind back to when we didn't have tanks, F-16s, Congress, oligarchs, Democrats, Republicans, black-white issues, racism, slavery. Let's go way back to the beginning, and how about we start rebuilding from there, because I don't remember these things occurring in those times. We're falling for the nonsense when we want to attach ourselves back to some paper scandal, such as constitutions, treaties, and things of that nature. I want to go back beyond that when there was no constitution. I want to go back to where there was no ink and paper. How about that? Can some of y'all survive and be able to have verbal intercourse based on that esoterical principle in history? Or do some of you have to have books, white papers, black papers, constitutions, treaties, declarations? Who wrote them? Whose founding fathers? Whose framers? What picture did they frame for me? What lifestyle did they frame for you? We keep wanting to masturbate about things that someone told us to place value in. But when you look at the whole entire scheme of things, there's no value in nothing unless you go back to the beginning. Okay? Not the beginning of pen and paper, not the beginning of slavery, not the beginning of when they started recording history modernly. Let's go back to the original beginning. I bet many of you don't want to go there. You're scared. So that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to play a commercial. I'll be right back in 1 minute. Hopefully, if I can get this clip playing. Looks like I'm not going to be able to. I'm not even going to get this clip to play. So this is what we want to go back to today. I want to let y'all know about next Friday. Next Friday is going to be a very huge, very, 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 very big show. All right? Because I've gotten several emails and the requests to address a variety of topics, inclusive of this now internal war between the state and the federal so-called government, or for some of you, the state government and the federal government. We know we had a State of the Union the other week, or last week, or this week. Shows you how important.
Come listen to a live roar.
Wanna be down with the
for years, about 10 of them. Recruiting suckers, macking, micing, making men of them. Tears and fears for my peers. They ripping. You think that it is, if not it isn't. Race for the border, my daughter could beat her banging out. Teach rocking beats in the streets and it's time for hanging out. Gather, or rather from a circle right out loud. Just a cover for others to never ever let the crowd. No, shut them down. The king with the sound. That's all you wanna be is to keep down. Down with the king. Come on.
Sharif, I'm the line of Judah, the line you are listening to THOR Radio Network,
I'm sorry about that. I'm having somewhat of a technical difficulty. The analytics are not functioning properly. At any rate, while I address that issue, I've been asked to touch upon several things regarding this turmoil between state and federal government that is going on. And for some of you, I don't think you really understand or know the magnitude of it, because it's big. It is huge. There was outright war going on between what you call your government. Okay? And y'all need to understand what's going on. Y'all really do. Y'all need to pay attention and remove the emotions and really kind of step back and see what's going on. And not everybody has the ability to do that because we're so tied into either getting support from the masses, being popular with what everyone else is doing, or we're making sure we cast our membership to one side or the other. Or the new neutral ground, which is, I don't know what the hell I'm doing, is, liberal. All these ignorant freaking titles to denote that you confused and don't know what the hell you're doing. You can go with whatever side the wind blows one day, and the next day you justify it by saying I'm a liberal or I'm a neutral. All this nonsense, man. It's absolutely ridiculous. So next Friday will be a very big show because I'll have a panel that'll sound like a political group, because they're some of the smartest minds I know in what you may call underground, above ground, middle ground, or however you want to frame it. But we're going to talk about this because it's big. We have the Oregon situation. We have the states versus the federal government. We got several states passing laws to not enforce the federal government, basically giving a finger to the federal government. Idaho passed a law, you're not going to enforce any federal gun rights, gun laws, or statutes. Okay, again, creating a war. So they've been doing it abroad. They're doing it big time here. I mean, you talk about Iraq and Iran. You pay attention to what's going on right here. And your President Obama even alluded to that fact in his State of the Union address. He says, I'm not really worried about, terrorism and from other foreign countries. He said, I'm not worried about that. We're the strongest nation in the world, like bar none. Like it ain't even close. What I am concerned about is I get more threats from the states. That was his words. Okay? Now, who are the states? Well, that's what we're going to talk about, because we're going to talk about black and white issues until we kind of get to the common denominator of the source of confusion or the source of worry or the source of nervousness, because maybe their worlds are collapsing. When we talk about the states, who is it? Well, if you listen to this new attorney, Chris Ann Hall, that I've seen videos on, who's just supposed to be a constitutional attorney, I don't have anything against her. Her being an attorney doesn't matter. The only thing I kind of focus on when we're dealing with public servants is when they're turning their public person on and off. Because what we have to do today is we have the tendency to allow people to stay cloaked in their persona, their mask, their public person. So you don't know when they're talking as a private man or woman, person, or as a political person, officer, employee. We don't know, because we've been trained to not ever turn our legal person off, meaning that you always got to carry ID, which is nonsense. You always got to have some type of legal document, which is nonsense. So we've been trained to stay in this realm of fiction. So we don't know when you're talking in the spirit of your family, in the spirit of yourself, in the spirit of your personal endeavors, or we don't know if you're talking in a public sense. See, this is the trick.
Come listen to a lion roar.
Excuse me.
Come listen to a lion roar.
I'm sorry. This is the trick to get you to not know who's talking, what they're talking about, and what they're addressing when they talk. All right? We would first have to know, okay, who's talking? So, we have this thing to where we're wondering about the Constitution. And back to this Chris Ann, I'm trying to get this blog talk up, and I'm having some technical difficulties. That's why I'm kind of distracted. We're always wondering what people are talking about and when they're talking about it. All right? And the problem is that the things that this Chris Ann Hall attorney is saying, I can agree with what she's saying, a lot of it. She's not going as far in as we would go, but I can see what she's saying when she's talking about the demarcation between the federal government and the states. But then my problem is that, and I'll discuss next Friday, and I'm just giving you some snippets, is that, okay, well, is the states any better? Are the states any better? And are we seeing this subordination to the federal government who definitely, regardless of what you say, if you want to fall for the banana in the tailpipe trick, they run the show. States don't coin money. That driver's license you got a federal Social Security number attached to it. That home that you bought with a mortgage is a federal U.S. obligation with the Social Security number attached to it. You got it from the Federal Reserve, which is not federal, but it's a private corporation that the Congress creates laws, rules, and regulations on your behavior and conduct within it. Okay? So when they're pulling you over at the state, that's a federal law, because you got the driver's license. For some of you that may be misconstrued what a driver's license is, it's just issued by the state. The state don't create it. It's on the Title 49 of the federal law. Okay? Your Social Security is federal. Your monetary system is federal because states don't coin any money. Okay? Most of the time they putting you in jails under federal law, although they doing it at a state level. I mean, when we look at the U.S. Justice Department and all these reports on Ferguson, on Texas, on Philadelphia, on New Mexico, I mean, these are states causing death, false incarceration, racism. Within the state system, sure, we got the federal agents that are involved in certain things, but not as remotely close to what the states do. So they want you to now have allegiance to the state as if they're better. And then now what they say, well, the federal government really doesn't have any territories or any jurisdiction. Or look, I could agree with you because the law has always been written. If the law is fine, it's the people that's been breaking it and those that's been colluding against the people, okay, depleting their power, telling you you ain't sovereign, but they always trying to act like they're sovereign. You don't even know who the state is. Many of you don't know who the state is, and it ain't the ones that are talking. It's you. So now they want to put up this barrier, like Donald Trump. They want to put up a wall between you and the federal government. Really? Where do they get their funding from? How are they going to survive off of business licenses for people selling chicken and pineapples and cantaloupes? I mean, what state business don't have an EIN number? Like, this is all like y'all are falling for the nonsense. Okay? Now you got federal judges going against state judges and state saying the federal and then the federal saying the government. Y'all don't understand what's going on. Why are y'all participating in this when everything that they're doing is about who stole less or who stole more or who committed the most crimes or the most atrocities against the people or who did less? Well, I'm telling you right now, I know who's going to win that fight. I already know. Should you be making a choice right now or should you be choosing yourself? Should you be involved in those that want to now protect what they've done for so many years, okay? And you want to let them off the hook by having them get you involved because you're the power. Now they want you to gather up and protect them is what's going on. Y'all better wake up. I think you all should sit back and let them fight it out. Because I think you'll learn a lot about those that are around you or those that are speaking out now. That's supposed to be on your side, but where were they? The state jails are full. People getting out every day for being in jail wrongfully. Shootings, where are they coming from? What branch? Who's been doing the stealing? Civil forfeiture. You think they mad maybe because the Justice Department, if you're so much in control and you have so much power, then why does the Justice Department have to turn around and cut you off from civil forfeiture and say we're not giving you your split? Well, if you're the one that was enforcing the law, let me put it politically correct just for a moment, enforcing the law, why you didn't take your cut of the civil forfeiture off the top and give the rest to the federal government if you're in control? I mean, these are things I just ask because I don't have to masturbate with all this philosophical, legal jargon and during ping pong. Who's really in control? Who really has the power? We got the Texas Attorney General talking about we want a constitutional convention. I mean, for what? Are you going to deal with the state issues first? You going to empty the jails? You going to deal with the racial inequality of the judicial system, of the jail system that the federal government had to point out because you wouldn't clean it up yourself? Let's just look at consumer protection. Let's look what's happened now when we listen to these articles from the attorneys, the demise of the practice of law for consumer attorneys. Well, what is that based on? Federal law? They want to say, oh, well, the Supreme Court is the only ones that have the authority to govern us. But they ain't, and they haven't been. Y'all are losing your home to state courts, not federal courts. Now y'all want to jump on this side, the federal against the state. So we just got to, everybody asks me for my position because they say I'm a straight shooter. I'm going to shoot it like I want to shoot it. I really don't give a damn what anybody thinks, but I kind of got some logic that people need to start listening to and stop masturbating with nonsense. Everybody's just comfortable with cliques and clubs. They're not comfortable standing on their own principles. You comfortable standing on somebody else's, to where that what you're standing on is so small, all of you can't even fit. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about this federal case with a farmer. The Bureau of Land Management was trying to take its property. I don't think you heard about this case. I don't even think you heard about what happened with this judge that he levied obstruction charges against 2 federal officers and said the federal government, the Justice Department, was acting like pretty much straight criminals, anti-constitutionalists in the way they were taking this man's property, and it was a violation of the Fifth Amendment takings clause. And I said, when I read this order by this federal judge trying to protect this Western person from losing its farm, and from what I see, yeah, it was wrong. But it's done all the time on the state level. And when I hear all this takings under the Constitution and all that, they really went all in. This guy had money, and then he depleted his money, have an attorney, and then he went pro se, trying to protect his farm that had been in the family for a long time for the federal government taking it. And this judge federal judge in the court came to his rescue and protected him with no money. And start doing all the defensive techniques that many of y'all have tried in your individual foreclosure, and they were like, that's bullcrap. But they were doing it for this Westerner, is the way they framed it. This farmer. Injunctions was levied against the Justice Department and the federal government. 2 orders for obstruction of justice against 2 federal officers was levied against them. This is by a federal judge to protect this farmer, but yet there's 10 million foreclosures. And it's a taking under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution just as well, but you weren't able to use that. Y'all see this duplicity? Y'all know I hate duplicity. We're going to address that. But I see a lot of screaming and yelling by certain cultures, because when we want to talk, and I hear this constitutional, all these constitutional arguments. This is why I say this is Papergate. Who relies upon the Constitution? Y'all think y'all derive, you're breathing, you're talking, you're living, your right to privacy, your right to property, your right to peace and tranquility. Everybody seems to always base that on some piece of paper, and that's mental illness. I'm going to keep using this word. The Constitution, the framers of the Constitution, what were they frame? Who framed? I didn't frame that in my mind. I couldn't give a damn what somebody wrote. And I wouldn't care if they looked like me or not, because somebody that looked like me couldn't write for me. You think you're going to win an argument about a piece of paper that neither one of you wrote? Ain't nobody here on this earth today talking about it, wrote it. But every day we're saying, well, we know the founding fathers would have. And y'all fall for this, but then y'all look on TV, you look on court TV, or you look at these crime shows, you see them doing the same thing. Well, little Ray, what happened was Chiquita got mad, shot little Ray in the foot. The bullet hit the doorknob, ping pong off the fan, went down to the basketball court, hit this Christian lady, but it grazed her pocketbook and came and hit Chiquita in the head. And that'll be their testimony. Somebody will go to jail. The same thing. Well, the framers of the Constitution would not have done things. How the hell do you know? How do you know? This is what we do from people in robes, people in pulpits. We're masturbating about the Bible that was written thousands of years ago. People arguing. People are just like fighting for something that you didn't even write, and you couldn't write a piece of paper of your own words if you didn't have a constitution, a declaration, a treaty, or something this or something. You wouldn't survive. Like I said last week, if some of y'all today, the president said, "I'm suspending the Constitution," I'm trying to understand what y'all would argue about then. This attorney will be shut up. All the politicians will be shut up. I guess the White House will be shut up. You want to talk about martial law? Okay, what's the rules for that? Did y'all learn that? Like, it's freaking crazy. If he suspends the Constitution, I'm telling you, 95% of y'all that talk right now wouldn't know how to talk, because you wouldn't be able to rely upon a document, because everything that you've learned derives from a document. Gag laws. I see some group suing North Carolina about a gag law. What piece of paper gives somebody authority to tell you to shut up? Like, how y'all, like, this is the sickness. I guess that's why this administration gave you free insurance and making a case for mental illness, because when we listen to ourselves, if we would really listen to ourselves objectively and even subjectively, we have a mental illness. Because we talk out of every hole on our body, and it never makes any sense. I'll say this example again, and I'm going to wear it out probably for 2016. You're not going to win a legal argument. You didn't write none of those. They've been arguing for thousands of years about the Bible and about the Constitution and about treaties, and nobody has won yet. Why? It's not meant to be won. We're not built to think the same way. We go on principles. So I'm not understanding what the problem is. In Delaware, the same people, state, federal, whatever you want to call it, told the sheriff in Delaware, you can't make any more arrests or lock anybody up. And the sheriff was like, what the hell is wrong with these people? I'm the sheriff. I'm in the Constitution. What are you talking about? I'm going to sue you. And he went and sued. This is the Attorney General of Delaware, Bo Biden, before he died. Okay, the Vice President's son said that the sheriff didn't have any power. Now, that's why I take all you constitutionists and all you paper pushers and all you Papergate personnel people, that's everything you say when you open up your mouth, anytime you open up your mouth, you say something, you back it up with some free speech, as if you were born with free speech, or you were born a natural born citizen, or you were born within the United States. Mental illness. And the most people falling for it, and the ones that are going to be deemed mentally ill, are those people. If y'all don't see it coming, y'all need to wake up, man. I don't know what you're drinking. I don't know what you're smoking. I don't know what you're doing. But something's wrong with you if you think you're going to win a legal argument. The sheriff didn't win of Delaware. The judge told the sheriff, I think you just interpret that Constitution wrong. I mean, it wasn't a 50-page pleading. It wasn't a 20-year battle. This is what the judge told the sheriff. The sheriff's like, I'm going to win. I'm going to sue him. My sheriffs can lie. I'm the constitutional sheriff. I'm the highest constitutional executive order in the county. And they were like, no, Bubba, you're wrong. I think you read that wrong. I think the Constitution only gives you no more authority than an average citizen. This is how quick that argument was over. In Sharif-like fashion, like 3 sentences. I think you read that wrong. You don't have any more authority than the Attorney General. And the Constitution doesn't even say that you can carry guns. The Constitution didn't say that you can. It just says you're a keeper of the peace. Do y'all understand what the judge said to him? Because that's his judge. Do y'all understand what that means when you want to talk about self-power? Like I've been telling you for the longest, who has the power? He told the sheriff he didn't have no more power than you. So y'all see all these fights with the sheriff and the federal government. You better pay attention, because the fight ain't yours. Now go back, let's look at everything that they've done prior to this judge telling them that and what you think about that. If you didn't have the authority and your own constituents told you that, then what authority have you been exercising? Maybe the authority that y'all won't exercise. But now they want y'all to rally up and put your arms around the state that's been subjugating you probably worse than the federal. And I ain't on either one of their sides. So this constitutional attorney, she's like, oh, well, you know, the Justice Department and you know, they went to this convention, they're bringing in the UN and they're doing this city policing new unit. And I'm like, okay. And now we have foreign invasion of the states. I'm like, it been foreign invasion. What the hell are you talking about? The state is foreign. All of it is foreign to you if you know what you're talking about. And everybody's like clapping. You're like, wah, wah, wah. What do you mean? What do you mean foreign? See, what that plays into is the black and the white thing, the Muslim and the Christianity thing. Well, we have Muslims now coming in, and they're going to do Sharia law. And you telling me Christianity has been better? You telling me Catholicism has been better? You telling me even Islam has been better? Any institutionalized religion ain't better. Let's go back to the beginning. We're going to do that today. Let's go back all the way to the beginning, before all the fake stuff started to come in. Let's go back to the original Arabs. They ain't the ones you see now in Dubai. I'm sorry. Let's get rid of this Christianity and Catholicism. And did y'all hear what the Pope said? Did y'all hear what Brother Baniti said in the beginning about what the Pope said? Y'all ain't listening to that. Y'all listening to the Buquan and Oregon and all these people talking about the federal government is overstepping their back. They've been doing it along with the state, along with the legal society. They've been doing it. And now y'all going to run to one side or the other instead of staying neutral and be like, no, y'all push them back in the ring. Push the state and the feds back in the ring. Don't come over here. Get back in that ring and y'all fight it out. We want to hear some more about what you've been doing. Because a lot of secrets is coming out now. Or they ain't secrets. A lot of revelation is coming out now. Y'all don't need to be taking to nobody's side. They ain't on your side. I don't care what attorney talking. They ain't on your side. Where you been? Where you been when the state prisons has been full? When people been wrongfully arrested? People being terrorized for driving their own damn automobile? People being killed and shot, black, white, and brown? Where have you been, Miss Constitutionalist? You're licensed by the state. Where you been? Why are you just talking out now when the government is saying, now we coming after all of y'all, the federal government? Now you want to scream out and you want to holler? Some of those particular cultures that believe they have a supremacy or a VIP status here, now you're seeing that you don't and you're worried. You subjugated certain cultures, now you're worried because they're in your communities now. They're surrounded by them. And there's the full effect of the law behind certain discriminations that you were able to do that now you're not able to do. You called a lot of people names. You've done a lot of wrong things. Now you're paranoid that the basis upon which you were doing it has been exposed. I'm not jumping on nobody's side right now. I'm on my side. I'm with those that want to stand on the people, and let's go back to the principles. Because like I said, the law is there. They just been breaking their own laws, all of them. We better wake up. Stop playing games. That's what I'm going to address next Friday. This white and blackish Westerners versus the federal government. They've been extending their power. Seriously? Not as much as the states. People in state court, child support, going to jail. And you want to tell me what? That's the federal government doing that? Not all of you state licensed attorneys are licensed to practice in federal, and many of them don't do good. So what about you that's been down there representing people, and 90% of the time they go to jail? What about that? You want to talk about that? See, we got to talk about the real issues before we start talking about the federal government. It's no time to take sides right now. We ain't taking no sides. Not me. You asked me to speak on it. I'm going to speak on it next Friday, eloquently. And just like I am now, I'm going to keep it raw, because that's what they asked me to do. I'm going to keep it real raw. Let's deal with the racial equality, the racism, the white supremacy, discrimination. Go and start marching around them jails. We don't need you in the woods with shotguns. We don't need black lives marching around the chicken store. Let's go march around them courts, march around them jails, and say, hey, 90% of black and brown is in jail, but they don't commit all the doggone crimes because some other culture buys all the drugs. Let's deal with that. Let's deal about the presidents that's been warring and killing people and been really bringing the drugs into this country. Let's talk about that. How about that? And some of y'all probably under the misconception that, you know, the prison costs the states all of this money. Y'all know that's not true, right? Y'all know they making a ton of money, right? Right? You know the only reason why they doing it is because of money. You know they don't love you guys. You know they don't care about you. You know they don't care about crime. Y'all really believe that? The little boy down in Texas, the Affluenza guy, he got off killing 4 people because some doctor came in, like would come in on your case, and say, oh, he suffers from Affluenza. You know, this is like embarrassing. This is not even really worth to talk about when this is what goes on. Affluenza. And he gets off murdering 4 people because he didn't have an affinity towards life. Yeah, that's why he shouldn't have one himself. And this is what y'all want. Y'all want to talk about states and constitutions and everything else. Now, mind you, that happened at the state. George Zimmerman happened at the state. All of these officers that get off, well, that's not the federal government. It happens at the state. And y'all want to join in and go sleep in the woods for 3 weeks and realize it's too cold, and y'all want to march around the school and realize your knees are bad and your sneakers are not soft enough, and y'all want to fall into the ISIS thing, and I hope you listen to the beginning and realize who ISIS is. Now y'all fall for this. They got on the media. I'm looking at this. They got an emblem that says white ISIS and black ISIS, vanilla ISIS and chocolate ISIS. This is a y'all marching about it too. Vanilla ISIS. I'm just like, oh, that sounds real serious to me. Like, y'all falling in this religion thing. We go religion. Did y'all hear the Pope? I'm just saying seriously. Did y'all really listen to the Pope, or are y'all too busy worrying about who's running around in the woods and who Black Lives Matter and how they worrying about they ain't getting an equal education when the education everybody's getting not allowing you to get a damn job anyway because they don't have any? Seriously? Y'all want to wear out them sneakers? Y'all might as well play ball. Don't be walking around wearing out them sneakers. You need to hit the books. You need to go inside and learn who you are. We need to go to the beginning. That's what we're going to do today. We're going to go to the beginning. We ain't going 1910, 1857, 1757, the Constitution for, the Constitution of. Forget all that. I don't be arguing about that for 10 years. I don't have that patience. I don't have time to be masturbating about nonsense. Let's get to the core things. Let's get it done. I'm not saying that anybody's right or wrong. I'm just saying when the insiders start screaming out, I'm just saying why wasn't you screaming out now that you're not benefiting? Now you want to scream out. I look at you even more suspect. Leave them to themselves. They figured out how to take your house. They figured out how to keep you in jail. They figured out how to jail you. They passed 6,000, 7,000 statutes and codes and knew they were unconstitutional, but they made $1 trillion by the time it got to the Supreme Court. And then once it gets to the Supreme Court said, what the hell were you thinking about? This is unconstitutional, damn illegal. Then they want to say, nah, we don't agree with you. Do y'all see what's going on and y'all want to jump on somebody's side right now? Y'all want to jump on somebody's side, for real. And show up next Friday. I'm going to hurt some feelings. Because I think, seriously, a lot got some mental illness. There's a lot of mental illness when you arguing with people that arguing over one piece of paper. I take a piece of paper, I'm going to go through it one time. I ain't picking it up no damn more. I don't have time. We're going to deal with it, whether it take a week or a month, but we're not going back to that. Y'all got a problem of y'all love romancing the stone, you know? Y'all just love it. Y'all love going to church for 100 years, arguing about the Bible for 100 years, arguing about the Constitution for 1,000 years. Everybody's practicing something but never master it. You don't master self. You only master religion. Then when one religion falls, you pick up another one, and you start masturbating that or incorporating the old religion into the new one because you don't want to stand on yourself. You can't go in the closet and turn the light on and stay in there 5 minutes by yourself because you'll probably commit suicide. Because you don't want to deal with self. But then you want to deal with these people in these suits under these titles and politicians and all that, and they sound just as crazy as a 3-year-old. And all of y'all following it. Did I go on a rant, Tiffany? Layla? I don't know. My guess
yes,
should be
you
here.
went on a rant.
I went on a rant? I'm sorry. I'm
That's okay, though.
I'm fired up.
That means they're coming back next week to listen to the rest of it.
You ain't heard a rant till you come next week. Because I'll have somebody I'll have a few that can talk back. And if you open up your mouth with me and you don't know what you're talking about and you just regurgitating a lot of that stuff because you've been inside the system too long to where you start making excuses for what they do, okay? You're going to see some people on the panel get the dart. Because that's what we got to start targeting the platformers that just regurgitates this nonsense and we don't move further. We still talking about old crap. Man, stop this nonsense, man. Anyway, my guest is probably here. Let me look for him. Brother Baniti Amun-Ra, known as Brother Mike, Awakening Minds, Universal Minds on Blog Talk. And Mother Nubia Inc. on YouTube. You should check the brother out. There's one thing I'll say, I'm gonna do a little praising my own pond. We New Yorkers, we don't like all that masturbating, man. We like to get to the point. Like let's get to it. You know, that's how we do. Let's get to it. Let's look. Come on, man. Let's stop playing. You know, we ain't got time for that. Everything New York, we fast. You know, everything is look, time is money. Brother Mike, if you in, press 1 whenever you get in. I'll bring you in. But, you know, we got to deal with these issues. And today, you know, we're going to deal with those mental, emotional, and spiritual restraints. Because that's what this religion is. That's what the Constitution is. The Constitution is no different than the Bible for some of y'all. It's no different. Tiffany, you got anything to say on that? Let me shut up because I don't even talk.
Why don't we say that for next week?
Oh, shoot. You got any comments right quick? You can press 1. You know, on my little rant. I'm sick of the nonsense. I mean, this is the time for us to grow. This ain't no time to be joining no more clubs. You need to stand by yourself with your family, your loved ones, and those that think and hear like you, black, white, and green. You still got a lot of black and white issues being pushed in the same way. They want you to join the club. They need your numbers because they know they can't win with the federal against the state. Why? Too many seekers going to come out in that fight. So they need to get 100,000 of y'all to agree with them. You want to use the law now. But you couldn't use the law. How do y'all use the same arguments that the people use and the government derives its power from the people? You're not sovereign, but they are now. What the hell? Huh? See, they get you on that double whammy. Constitution, treaties, and the religion. Man, they got y'all wrapped up. Y'all ain't going to never breathe. Y'all ain't going to never go against nothing. Okay? Y'all ain't going to go against nothing. They get you on that Constitution, and that doggone religion, boy, you about as good as toast. You done. Am I right, Tiff? Getting both that, you done. You be turning the other cheek, paying your tithes. Then that, if you pay your tithes and you're all right with paying, taxes maybe you're not supposed to pay. I'm just saying there's nothing wrong with paying your taxes if you really know. You should want to, because the taxes will pay you too. That's what most of y'all don't know. But you got the front. I ain't doing nothing with. I'm dropping my Social Security. They taking my cash, although I only got $200. They trying to take it and make it cashless. And they taking my firearms, and you don't know what the damn definition of a firearm is, and they got you twisted up. You don't know if they talking from a legal perspective or they talking in the common sense of the words, or you don't know if they speaking in a religious sense. So anytime they open up their mouth, they can turn around and do what the judge did to the sheriff and be like, I think you read that wrong. Boy, that was a fun. Y'all want to talk about the funniest? Tiff, you know that was the I thought this was going to be a war. I thought they was going to be hitting the heretofore and the wherewith and the I'm like, and the judge sitting up there, he's just like, Sheriff, I can understand how you arrived to that conclusion, but I just think you read that wrong.
People just need to separate the distraction from the truth. 90% of what we fight is a distraction.
He said, in the argument, look, it was quick. It was just as quick as Jessenowski versus Countrywide on rescission. Yep. It was quick. They thought, and look how long it took to get there. You had to go through all the ignoramuses, all the incompetent people, all the stupos. They had to say no. And this attorney had to take it all the way up to the Supreme Court. Took probably, 7, 8 years? I don't know. Y'all know how many doggone people lost their house in them 7, 8 years that they intentionally just deferred and delayed the truth from coming out? Y'all know how long? Until the Supreme Court get it, and they did it on their lunch break. They was just like, go, Susie, go back there and get back there and write this up and tell them what the heck, Obama, mental illness needs to be on for next year. Mental illness, because I think these subordinates we got them lost their damn mind, injuring these people, masturbating with the law. They ain't even got the right to interpret the law. This is what your Supreme Court said about your subordinates. So now you can see what's going on. Where the money come from is what I'm asking you. Where did it come from, federal or the state? Where the money come from? And now you just see all the state ones, now that the CFPB done come in and regulate their asses, put some rules on them, not even any new rules either. Some of y'all still talking about the Federal Reserve, and you knuckleheads that don't know what you're talking about when it comes to economics because you don't come listen to THOR. You don't know that the CFPB done took over the Federal Reserve. I got to keep highlighting that because there's still some ignoramuses that still just don't keep up with the modern times. You still in esoterical times. Now you got the states because they being regulated. Finally, they saying obey the law, and now they want to talk about the Supreme Court is wrong and that's illegal. Y'all see this nonsense because they can't continue to oppress and subjugate the people because the people are growing spiritually and emotionally. Okay, so now the states want to fight with the feds. What? All your money came from the feds. You want to tell me, the states are sovereign than the feds? Then why, when the Supreme Court ruled on marriage, why are you obeying it? This is a joke. This is all to keep you distracted from your spiritual foundation and for you to have common sense, because the only thing we have now is religious sense or legal sense, and we don't even have that. When the highest law enforcement agent in the state goes to the judge and judge said, I think you just read that Constitution wrong, buddy. I'm going to make me a parody about that. I got to do me a video about that. It's funny. Because if y'all can't talk to me unless y'all talking about some legal stuff, if I have a normal conversation with you and I take out the politics, or if I say, the Constitution suspended, I would sit there and have a talk with the attorneys, with all these legal eagles, these politicians, these pundits, these news people. I'd be like, so what's going on? They'd be like, I don't know right now. I'm popping pills. I ain't got nothing to talk about. Tell me about yourself. What about myself? I'm a news reporter. No, I'm not talking about your job, bro. We don't have no substance other than this indoctrination that we've received and our parents' parents. We don't have nothing to talk about. And that's sad. So hope Brother Baniti, Amun-Ra going to be here. We're going to try to, strip you down and replenish you with some spirit, because this is what you're going to need. Because I'm telling you, I heard the little South Carolina politician, he's like, I'm backing Jeb Bush. There's a religious war. Look, they be telling y'all, too, there's a religious war. He said, ain't nothing else going on but a religious war. Why do you think it's a war? Because the Pope, the ones that created this religion done told you, and I'm going to get Brother Mike maybe to tell y'all, because I don't know, maybe I'm numb to y'all. I've been on here 2 years. He done told y'all, look, it's a joke. It's all, you don't need it. It's don't, you know. They said on the Pope said that he got 1,000 pedophiles in the Roman Catholic Church. He said it. I didn't say it. Did y'all hear that? 1,000 pedophiles. But Bill Cosby on trial because I don't know if he did it or not. But I mean, but he seriously? We got people in jail and they didn't touch anybody. All you got to do is make the allegation that you touched somebody. They say now Bill Clinton done touched some people. You can make up anything in this legal world. It don't ever have to make any sense. And this is the system y'all want to start taking sides on? Man, y'all better wake up. I'm gonna take a short break, 3 minutes. My guest, Brother Mike Baniti Amun-Ra here, Awakening Universal Minds, Mother Nubia Inc., The Magic Man, Black Magic, Occultists, Ancestral Worship. We going in today. We'll be right back. I got to give them a New York. We got to do a New York welcome on a little bit of music, and then we going to get right back into it. This for you, Baniti.
Level up in this piece.
What's up, y'all? What you got to say? On the stage with the hot DJ.
Smooth the hustler. Making up the click.
That cool in that baby. Representing in the NYC.
This is your pythons, Mr. Tough Guy. This is your brother, my sister, watch your fucking spot. Deep incisions, piece together with my arms. My niggas in the court position. When you lace me, amaze me, go crazy. Murder in my head. I have to do this. Competition that be frontin'. Home happy, yes. Front to the fucking thing, the fool can finish. Ooh, what a mess, I feel the pain and the power of men to the power. They cause master structure. Master serious, no shame in my game. The niggas with mechanical doors.
Grab your guns in your vest, hold your cassette. East Coast, Brooklyn, Brownsville, murder fest. Go with the Glock up. Now I hold the clock up and I pop up on niggas. I fuck my stock up. I got stock up. Spread you, dead you, since you said you. Criminal style, let's get deep like the bedroom. Invited, the written got me cited. Got written, I'm shitting niggas. Listen, commission. The first and last limos was dying for and I got the phone fishing. Listen, most of y'all are snakes. Yelling fuck the cops. Get off the block, I see you riding around with Jay. Trust, don't discuss nada. Representing for Brooklyn, but keep my own clique, cause we got drama.
What is the upon your food that I'm hearing? Well, of course, they don't think like brothers when they hearing. Won't be comparing me to another. Stop the Glock phone cop with my hand folded in rubber. Want some assassin blasting. Fools who don't know my mom too. You lose, I had your own business. With for the force, in my pores, in my skin, it's soaking wet within my friend. The end is now and an hour. Revolution soon come, but Armageddon has just begun. My lyrical revelation is tired about a win.
Your time's barely lose. My folks are the war. I ain't call to be my daily news. Don't get the TVs, PGs, and TVs. That single CDs and CDs. Rigor more than style, six genuine gifts.
It beats the boo, it beats the boo. Words flip like clips in my gun. From my hip, I rip inside your shit. Words in my clips, I'm reppin'. Full steppin', listen like weapons. Trigger the gambler, code name Max 11. Hard knock, she cruise, bouncing like you wop. If I fuck, 30 shots out my ooh-wop, a few drop. Then I'm gun jamming. The Brooklyn slugger, knock your block out the park. From my left field slamming.
You're the one for me. You're the I know that you're somebody else's bad, but these feelings that I have for you are tonight. She doesn't treat
dead style to the essence. Got niggas stressing, my style glows like fluorescence, no question. Come with the raw hits, the authentic underground sound. That's Section 8 off the wall shit. I play niggas like Game Gear, because rappers be frontin' hard when they singin' like fucking reindeer. Check it out, you know the haps. My style is astrological, like the signs in the zodiac. I don't sweat competition, I just do my thing and disappear like a magician. Forget tricking, you know my style, honey. Y'all chickens would be lucky to get a coke and a smile from it. I'm not some nigga that's Santa Claus. Hey girls, we could be cool. Don't play me like I'm Santa Claus. Cause word to my mother, if I slide down your chimney, all I'm bringing is a rubber like that and like that and one time, yo, it's like that. It's the player to examine. My thought patterns are deep like Cane's, a tough companion that women won't abandon. That's my CeeLo. Lyrics conquer the streets like Nino, late incognito. Likes to gamble like CeeLo, that's what we know. Fuck what they know or say, yo. I gotta do my thing. I can't be caught hanging like a halo. Time to hustle or get caught up in the shuffle. Use brains over muscles, seeing more tips than ruffles. I'm gigantic, coming hard like granite. Fuck where you from. I represent the whole planet, not the thought lagging. Never caught bragging. The way I make moves to fuck up your whole thought pattern. Notice I check them, I got skills out the rectum. Display many styles like colors in the spectrum. You can't escape the inconcealable. Niggas are so whack, even people who read Braille ain't feeling you. I fell off, come on, imagine it. It's the sharp, elaborate type of nigga that's not having it on some new shit, some extra cool shit. Like the lounge in the crib all day, just sleeping pay-per-view shit. Word up, it's rough cops, I love props. When I come to town, I'm under surveillance like drug spots and nonsense. Coming from the rear quick, I'm on some old hit the lotto, disappear shit.
Yeah. We back. That's New York right there. I'm sorry. That's how we have to warm up. It's a New York thing. You know, we gotta, you know, we play music. You know, we clean up, we play music. We fixing the cars, we play music. We eat, we play music. You know, that's how we get warmed up. Some other people do other things, but me and Baniti up there from the NY, and that's the music capital of the world. I don't care what y'all say. Ain't talking about no West Coast. New York is where it's at. Brother Baniti, Amun-Ra, Mike is here.
What's going on? What's going on, Brother Sharif? Took me back. Took me back with that, that SWV breakdown in the middle there, man.
Oh, you know that's a New York thing right there. They don't do that nowhere else.
Yeah. Nah, like but like I was telling you, man, when you listen to music, you know, from your time, especially at key points in your life, like on New Year's Day, I don't know, I mean, you might have known they had the Pepsi Funk Fest down in Miami. So we went down there to check that out. They had a new edition down there, Silk Jagged Edge, and you know we had a great time.
Oh wow!
You know we had a great time down there, man. Just like I say, if you really focus in on the energy of the music, you know you can take yourself back to them moments in time. So we had a great time. But yeah, it took me back there. So appreciate that.
Yes, sir. I must have mixed it a little bit different, but I had Brucey B on there.
Shit.
I don't know why it wasn't, man. I'm going to get it downloaded. We're going to play it on the break. I got the Brucey B up in there. You know, I went back to the Rooftop days. I was like, yo.
Yeah.
I heard Bruce again. I was like, yo. Got to.
Yeah.
But what's up, Mike? I went into a rant in the beginning, man. You know, just talking about the different things that a lot of which you talk about on a metaphysical plane in terms of religion, man, the Pope, in terms of the state versus federal and all this constitutional paper pushing, Papergate scandal, everybody, you know, deriving their power and their sense and their intellect and their vernacular from some piece of paper, either it's the Bible. And, you know, I spent a lot of time studying a lot of your stuff. I listened to all your shows. I think you're one of the best out there. There's a couple of others that's pretty good in the metaphysical, you know, Brother Yusuf and a couple of others. But, you know, I'm trying to wake people up and shake them up because this is a real, a very significant time to where we can now like stand back and be like, look, we've been falling for the Willy Bobo for a long time, and now the people that's been perpetuating upon us is looking for support. They're looking to be crowded around and covered for what they've been doing for hundreds and thousands of years. And I'm just like, we don't need to be cuddling them. We need to stand back, man, and get into this self-mastery and this spiritualism, because Brother Mike, you said it all the time. I mean, you said it enough times, and I want you to address it again for everybody, what the Pope done said. And then when people keep masturbating about the Bible and about religion, about Catholicism, about Christianity and all that, and the Pope done pretty much told y'all in 100 different ways, based on also his behaviors, done told you, we're sorry. you know, we was tricking you. I'm sorry, we got
That's
pedophiles,
right.
and we got 1,000 of them in here that's been committing crimes, but
right.
never has been brought to pay for them. And we've been shielding, and now you see the states and the politics and the attorneys, now they want to be shielded with the people, same people they've been destroying. Talk about it for me,
Correct.
Mike, so I can talk.
Yeah, I mean, like we talked about on the last show, you know, the Pope basically, like you said, he came out and said, and you know, you can go back and listen to the last show from his tour of the United States, and I believe it was when he was in Philadelphia. He basically said that Christianity is outdated; it doesn't work. You don't need to be religious and go to church to be spiritual. He used terminology such as nature or some people's churches. I mean, I hope we're ingesting this. He was saying that some of the biggest atrocities in history that were committed were by Christians that believed in this Christian God. And some of the greatest things that were accomplished in the world were by people that were not Christians. So he's basically telling people, yeah, as a whole, but you gotta listen to the multi-layered aspect of the message, because he's trying to educate his people, but at the same token, he's trying to speak to us to let us know we fucked up, shit is out of whack. And he's trying to let his people know if we don't change the way we do things, we got a major problem on our hands. Now, speaking of pedophiles, now, you know these demons, they don't even persecute these pedophiles. If you go research the Boston Archdiocese church scandal in 2002, 2003, you'll find out all they do is move these pedophile priests and they hide them in another parish. And this is disturbing, and I can never understand. And I'm telling you this because when I was a youngster, I grew up Catholic. I went to Catholic school for 8 years. So I saw the bullshit, and I saw the system of programming. They don't persecute these dudes. They just hide them out somewhere else. And then they pay the victims of the family off. And one case I would suggest everybody go look up is the Boston Archdiocese church scandal that they were dealing with, and it was around 2002. 2003, and you'll see they paid the families off and they just relocated the priests. So why do we want to identify with this mental sickness? Who the fuck in the world wants to proclaim their allegiance to a system that says it's okay to abuse and hurt innocent children? Now, what you don't know is they're reenacting ancient occult rituals because the innocence of children, if you look, one of the key holidays on the Catholic Church's calendar is what they call All Saints Day, which is November 1st. And October 31st, which we know the night before, called All Souls or Hallowed Eve, which is the night before, is a high point in their calendar where they reenact a lot of these rituals where they utilize children because of the innocence and the pure blood of the young children. Now, you'll find out through the course of time there's many other rituals that they're reenacting, and children are at the base of it. And it's a sickness that we got going on in that church for a multitude of years. And like you say, this Pope they don't like because he's basically, you know, he's peeling away some of the shit that past popes didn't want to draw attention to. So
that's right.
Yeah, it's a sickness, man. It's definitely a sickness.
Man, Brother Mike, I love, you know, what everybody loves is that, you know, I'm kind of, you know, we got that New York mindset. We can touch on topics and we can roll. You know what I mean? Yeah, a lot of other people don't have that ability. Although they got platforms, they get hung up on one thing or another. They put the hang up, the big hotel hang up on there, and they don't want to move. You know, they start masturbating. What they love about our show is that we be rolling, and we know how to stop. We know how to pivot. We know how to cross over. We know how to dunk, and we know how to pass. So that's what they like about it, and I enjoy it, man.
Well, one thing I've learned over the years, like I say, you know, I've been teaching for a while. Never really got to the last year or two. Got mainly, like I told you last time, up on a lot of the social media because that's the end thing. And you know, I was more old school, going directly to the people. But I've sat back for many years, and you know, I've listened to a lot of teachers, and everybody has, you know, something to offer. You know, I'm not into the knocking and the bashing of certain things. You know, I believe everybody offers something. You know, the problem I have is when people try to enforce their own ideology on you. So I've always taken it upon myself. This is not a show. I'm not going to stroke your ego. I'm not going to make you feel good. I'm not going to tell you a bunch of shit to pump you up. You know, I'm not going to talk revolution and war. You know, basically, fortunately, there's a lot of people that just talk. You know, they got diarrhea of the mouth, and they're trying to, you know, insinuate all these revolution, this and that, you know, and they never carry out any of the things that they talk about. So I'm not one of those people. I'm not going to sit here and stroke your ego, make you feel good, and hang up the phone, but then you got to go back to the same old bullshit. See, the problem that we got going on in the conscious community, you have a lot of people that get feel-good lectures. You know, they want to sit there and pound in your head what the white man did to you, who the devil is, who you were once as great black people, and it sounds good on the surface. But at the end of the day, where's the solutions to the madness? The problem is, I could sit here all day and tell you what the problem is, but I don't see nobody giving no goddamn solutions. They just want to rant and rave about what the white man has done to you, but not asking these individuals, what are you doing for yourself? And that's what the path of self-mastery is about. And don't make excuses. Well, we can't because, you know, we're in a situation. The white man don't control shit. He only controls what you allow him to control. So when you take it on a metaphysical level and a spiritual level, your mind power is on a whole nother level. And when people understand being able to tap into the divinity of the power of their own mind or the 7 Hermetic principles, which is our shit, you understand? And that's why I always tell people, they say, well, you know, a lot of the books that are out, white people stole it from us. It's our shit. You got to read everybody's shit. And people always have this lame-ass excuse. And I always tell this to people, live the experience. Don't get the experience from somebody else. Because unfortunately, the other issue that we have going on amongst us, we tend to take somebody else's value. If somebody tells you, for an example, something is bullshit, well, you find that out for yourself. Because I dialogue with a lot of people, and they'll tell me, oh, yeah, I read about that. That's bullshit. And then I'll ask them, well, based on what? I mean, did you live the experience or did you hear the experience? It's two different things. So that is very important.
Man, that's deep, bro. That's deep, and we got a lot of we got a lot of book professors out there, man. They'll rattle off 6 books, but they can't have a decent conversation. Be like, okay, what did you derive from them 6 books? Tell me what were the first of all principles, because I think that's a big word, Mike, that we kind of get from around. Every book has a principle. Like, what was the Don't tell me about every. You know, don't pull out some salient points of the books and tell me you want to rely on that like they do the Bible. What was the principle of the book? If you tell a principle, describing the principle will have someone be interested in the book. But we don't know the principle. We caught up on the philosophy of what they were saying or some of the sentences that they said, catchphrases and things like that. We don't look into the principles of these books.
Well, you know what happens is, and we just did a whole series, and we're finishing up next week with the final part of, we did a whole series on the chakras. And dealing with expressing yourself or expression, right, and what you're talking about. What tends to happen is, you got people that are overexpressive, and on the outside, they're trying to portray a certain image to those on the outside that they want people to see them as. Well, we really know in essence of what they're really about on the inside, meaning, unfortunately, this only applies to those who apply to. So if it offends somebody, then if it offends you, then you're this person. Sorry to say that. But you got a lot of these Negroes that put on dashikis, big-ass ankhs, and, you know, and they got the look down packed. They look real spiritual on the outside. But like you just said, when you start building with them, like they might have read 6 books, and you're trying to get to the core of the principles of what it is they just studied and how they put it into perspective. And more importantly, how does it apply to them? Because when we read information and knowledge, it's going to apply to everybody differently. So when you're reading a book, per se, that don't apply to everybody the same way, because everybody's at a different point in their spiritual journey and their mental evolution. So that information is going to be applied on a multitude of levels. So most people, like you say, they memorize the information, they can regurgitate the shit, but like when you ask them, how do you apply it, now we got a problem. And this ties into the throat chakra not vibrating on its correct frequency, because they don't know how to express themselves. Then you got people that are introverts, and they don't talk at all. They don't say shit. And then when they do talk, people don't take them serious anyway, because they've never expressed themselves. And that can be a danger, because then this starts to breed your psycho gun killers and your crazy people that just, because they've never had a vehicle to express themselves, now all that energy is building up and harnessing within them, and it's creating all types of spiritual blockages, and some tend to go to the extreme to express themselves. We got to seek that balance in between. So fortunately, those people that regurgitate these books, and like you said, we got a lot of them out there, they can't apply it. So inside, we know when dealing with the throat chakra, that receives energies that come up. It's smack in the middle of the heart and the crown, and those energies come from above and below. And when they're not reciprocated correctly, we have individuals that can't express themselves. They constantly lie. They always create this illusion of what they want you to see them as, or this is also a product of your people that got to lie about everything, even to the point of their social status quo. They got to front like there's something that they're not. Now, this is a sickness amongst us, unfortunately, that needs to be addressed. So, yeah, it's lack of expression in that throat chakra not vibrating on that correct frequency, man.
Well, you killed that. And I want to talk about expression. Mike, do you think one of the significant problems or one of the aspects of density is that when we talk about expression, there's a couple of things that might have prevented us or pretty much made us feel uncomfortable about expression? Like a couple of things come to my mind. Being raised up in church, you know, I looked at church, and in church, women couldn't do certain things. So there's a reluctance that when the man spoke, the woman shut up. I mean, I know your woman going to jump up and be like, yeah. But then other things is like Christianity or Catholicism, like upbringing. Like I'll tell you something recent that's pertaining to myself. My son, the kid's mother was talking to my son with Yama, my mother. And my son is he's like me. He's assertive, he's lion-like, he's aggressive, he's going to express himself, he's physical, and he don't want you to restrain him, he let him do what he wants to do. So, it drives his mother crazy. So then she's talking to Yama, she's like, what should I do? She's like, you got to, look, don't restrain him. Let him be, but sort of put boundaries. Don't if you restrain him, then now he's gonna and that was the most powerful thing I was like, wow. See, we wasn't raised by that. You was bad. You popped in your mouth. You understand what I mean? But Yama was like, no, let him express himself. Don't restrain him. Don't tell him no all the time, because then you're gonna make him reluctant to do what he do. He's physical. Like this dude will push the cart like he's physical. He's like his dad. So I thought I was like, wow, that makes a lot of sense. But that's not how we were raised. So we got another aspect is, Constitution, I was talking about in the beginning, free speech, that caused you not to open up your damn mouth. They got such things as gag orders, some stupidity that the Constitution tells you. Somebody can actually tell you that's a part of a legal group, shut your damn mouth. That's a problem. The Bible will shut your mouth, all these restraints. So we have all of these mechanisms that causes us not to exercise that throat chakra and really express ourselves, and then it causes, like you said, those guys that go out, grow up, and kill themselves, or them quiet women that's sneaky, or those quiet dudes that's sneaky. And it's bad, Mike. How do we fix that?
And I'm glad you brought that up when you brought up density. But let's also acknowledge the fact that as our consciousness is being reprogrammed, and when we educate ourselves, it's basically what we're doing. We're reprogramming our subconscious minds from all the bullshit we've been indoctrinated with. Remember, we're giving birth to warriors, man. These kids that we've given birth to in the last 15 to 20 years, it's a new generation. It's a new mindset. So like you said, they weren't raised like us. You understand what I'm saying? You got to remember, your DNA is encoded and programmed in them. So they're being birthed into this universe with a head start that we weren't given. So I know my two sons. My son, even though he's exposed to society, and my older son, who's 23, and I got a 2-year-old now, even though they're exposed to, the everyday ills of society, but they're getting that head start just like anybody else that this applies to. They're not being indoctrinated like we were, because, like, say, majority of us, we were indoctrinated in the school system and the church, and like you just said, we couldn't question shit. We were told to shut up if we asked the wrong questions. But we're giving birth to these warrior kids that are like, man, fuck that. I'm not hearing that church shit because I don't identify with it. I'm not seeing myself in any of that. And I do agree with your wife. You gotta let them express themselves, but with discipline. You know what I mean? With order and discipline. Let them go to their potential. Let them explore a point where they don't do anything to disrupt or destroy themselves. So let's establish that. There's a whole new generation of kids. This ain't the norm. And we can't compare these warriors that are being born in the last 15, 20 years to what we were. Not saying that we were soft, because we had it harder. We had to come, first through the bullshit that we were raised in, and then I know, and I know me and you had talked about this. And then when we came into that early '80s, mid '80s era, the big, political rebellion hip hop era is kind of what woke me up. When Public Enemy came out, I was enthralled by that shit. I was like, that's how I feel on the inside. You know what I mean? So we had to find venues to frustrate. These kids have a little more advantages today. It goes for them and against them. They got a lot more technology. Information is more easily accessible than it was when we were growing up. We had to dig a little deeper. You didn't have the internet, you know. You didn't have all these research resources. You know, we had to go straight face to face. We had to go to the elders. We had to sit at the feet of the elders to get educated and taught. Now these kids have the ability, just like we all do now, to self-teach. But when you mention density, let's talk about that real quick. This is important to understand, especially as somebody that deals with spiritual magic or mastery of self. Now, the phonetics in the word, when we deal first with alchemy, let's establish, when you're saying alchemy, it simply has root. It's actually an Arabic word, which is one of the very youngest Semitic languages that tie into us genetically as people. The word al, definite article in Arabic, and then you have the word chem or chemist. Chem or chem is simply black. So when you're saying alchemy or alchemist or an alchemist, you're basically saying you're a black magician when you break down the phonetics of the word. So when we talk about alchemy and density, let's build on that real quick. Density, any true alchemist knows, for one, to travel the spiritual realms, whether you're doing it astrally, through your visualizations or your meditations, or you're trying to, for an example, you can take yourself to heightened states, whether it's through hallucinogens like the shamans do. When you make yourself less dense, you're able to, for lack of a better word, I'm using metaphors that people can relate to, because some of these words I don't even like to use myself, you're able to ascend the spiritual realms, for lack of a better word. One has to make themselves less dense. Anybody knows to become a spiritual master or to master themselves, dense things hold them down. And we're not just talking about physical density, because thoughts carry weight. So if you're a person whose thoughts aren't formulated correctly, and you're constantly negative and you're thinking negative things and you're constantly thinking failure or you're constantly worrying all the time, those thoughts carry weight. They lay us down. They weight us down, and they prevent our spiritual growth. Also, so by not letting these children express themselves and forcing them to think the way you want to program to think, you're making them more dense. You're disconnecting them spiritually. Also, we have to take into account, which is very critical and key, attributes or certain type of vibrational energies that weigh us down. Ego, pride, jealousy, lust, desire, hate. We have to know how to channel those energies, because there's a balance in all that. Hate can be productive and hate can be destructive, because you can hate somebody that hurts innocent children. That's a productive hate. Because remember, when we deal with energy, there are varying degrees of vibration. There's no such thing as good or bad. We just got to know how to channel those energies. So in the essence, in relation to channeling those energies, as you mentioned with density, we're holding these kids back if we're forcing them, not, like you said, to allow them to express themselves or allow them to be creative within reason. Now, I'm not saying let your kids run amok and act a fool. Obviously, that's not what we're talking about. But with discipline, and I'm glad you mentioned that, let these kids express themselves. You're going to see the deities in them, man. And still, we can't. Don't try to make them experience everything the way you did. See, that's the mistake. Don't try to mold them, the way that you were because you like certain things, because that just may not be the case. So density is key in the path to self-mastery and making yourself less dense. Any great spiritual alchemist knows that's what they work on a daily basis, to release those dense things that are weighing them down and disconnecting themselves from the divine reality, which links them into the cosmic consciousness. That's the key. So I'm glad you brought that up. So I just wanted to touch on that density thing real quick.
Wow. And you just hit me in the head, because I find myself, I have to modernize my thinking, because, we got that old-fashioned, we grew up with that old-fashioned, but then I got to eliminate my upbringing, because I had to leave home 15, 16. I just couldn't, the church thing just didn't go with me. My DNA just rejected all that stuff, and I was just like, man, my mom's was always at battles, man. It was like, listen, she's like, you're just like your dad. But I mean, what did my dad represent? He represents self-individualism. He was of the Muslim mindset. He was like, but he never forced it. He's like, look, just be a man.
Right.
Do what it is. You don't like something, say you don't like it, voice it, and go on. So I find myself now, I even listen to some brothers now that have talk shows. And I hear a lot of them say, there was a situation where this police officer threw this girl through the front of the room like he was a baggage person in the airline industry. And I heard some people saying, well, you know, she, you know, she was being smart, they sassy, you can't control. I was just what is wrong? Like, what's wrong with you? Like, smart and sassy. So I have to change my mindset even with my kids to where I don't want them prohibited from expressing themselves, but I also try to keep them in a respectful range. And sometimes you look at the kids now and you think of yourself, you be like, you talking too much, but then I catch myself, I be like, well, now they need to talk because our era has failed us and failed our kids. Let's put it. We've been some straight, not all of us, but some of us been some straight punks and punkettes.
That's
right. We just allow things to happen. That's why the government out of control. That's why our kids out of control. That's why this country's out of control because we just kept our mouths shut and we didn't say anything. We don't. So now the kids is like, I'm gonna open up my damn mouth. You can kick me out the house. I'm gonna open my damn mouth because I see how soft y'all are, and I'm just like, what's wrong with y'all? You know, so if you right, Mike, when you say if you had a kid in this last 10, 15 years, they was born right in the midst of this revelation era and elevation era, to where they coming out with their mouth open because our mouth was closed, and we should try to find a way to cultivate that.
Yeah, I mean, if you're spiritually tuned, connected, man, just look in their eyes. You can, you know, they say the eyes are the tunnel to the soul. Look into these kids' eyes. I mean, it's not the same energy. You're not looking at mortal beings. When you look at some of these kids today, just look at their structure. Look at their face. You really got to study and analyze them. We're waiting for the gods to return. They have incarnated. They're here. See, that's another bullshit. You got a lot of people to get caught up in waiting for something to come for them. And we got to get out of that shit. We're doing this. We are the ones producing this mental resurrection. All you got to do is look at the youth. Now, on the flip side, it can run amok on let's talk about the flip side real quick. Because now, when that warrior energy is birthed into this universe, without proper discipline, that shit can run amok. Because we do got a bunch of disrespectful little motherfuckers out there that are not taught, and let's keep it real, that are not taught and educated correctly. Now, the problem with that is they don't have a vehicle to express that energy, so these are your kids that tend to get into a lot of negative shit. You know, they get in trouble, they run with the wrong people, you know, they get involved in whatever it is they can get their hands on because they don't have a productive outlet to get themselves and express that energy. And a lot of that ties into us as parents because, you know, if you're not educated or you are and you're not taking the time to educate your kids and you're just throwing them in front of the TV all day and they're watching videos on BET of Lil Wayne and all these other demons, and this is what's educating them about life. And then now they come out here in society and they think this is the way you treat women. You just talk to women like they're pieces of garbage. And they're disrespectful to women. They're disrespectful to elders. And they think it's about, you know, quick money. You know, they don't know any other way. And part of it's not their fault because nobody's teaching them or educating them. So there's nobody there. There's no, you know, may not be that father figure in their life on a consistent basis. You know, a lot of them might come from those single-parent backgrounds where the mother's working all the time, father ain't there, or vice versa. And there's that lack of balancement because you'll see the most balanced, for the most part, most balanced, productive children that have that masculine and feminine energy around them all the time are well-balanced. But you'll find that when it's either just feminine dominated with the male, the imbalances come out, vice versa. It doesn't work that way. So both are needed for a productive, healthy child to grow up. But let's talk the flip side. When that energy runs amok, we're seeing a lot of these little disrespectful fuckers. You know, like you look at a lot of these little girls. I mean, like I said, I'm an observer. When I go out in public, I observe. And people's behavior tells me of what they are on the inside. I don't give a shit of what you're trying to portray, what you're saying externally, or how you're portraying yourself. But your behavior and your actions, to me, shows what kind of spirit, what kind of soul, and what kind of heart you have. Now, I've been out in public, and I've watched some of these little young girls doing these provocative dances from some of these rap songs and some of these music and these R&B videos they're saying, and they know the words, man. They recite the words from front to back. But if you went up to that same child
while they singing it
and singing it, that's right. And you ask that same child per se, name me 5 great prominent women in Black history, and they wouldn't even have an answer for you. I use that as a metaphor to show you the sickness. We got to take responsibility. Don't sit there and blame the white man that everything is fucked up in the world when you're adding The white man ain't forcing you to turn on BET and them rap videos and throw your kids in front of the TV. The white man ain't forcing you to take your kids to watch certain shows and movies. You understand? Yeah, it's out there, but you have the ultimate control. It's what you let them have accessibility to, that's on you. And unfortunately, we always want to find a reason. Well, you know, if I could, I would have did this. If I could have, would have, should have, doesn't matter in this day and time. It's 2016. It's a new year. And it's only a new year in the sense that we got a lot more work to do. So it's going to get harder for us, but we're approaching that day and time. It's a great day and time because there's no more bullshit. There's no more games. Everything is obvious right now. Nobody has an excuse or a reason to justify why they're not where they need to be. And I've heard it all. I've heard financial excuses. I could be here all day talking to you about the excuses, but I never hear anybody talk about, well, what's the benefits that you got going for you as far as helping you attain your goal? Here, ask somebody this. Just something basic. What is your purpose in life and what are your goals? Man, you'll hear motherfucking crickets. Nobody even stops to think about what's your purpose in life and what's your goals? What are you trying to accomplish? If you left here today and you made the transition tomorrow, do you feel like you left a lasting, stamped impression on this realm? If you can't answer yes to that, then you really need to reevaluate what is your purpose. Are you just taking up space trying to survive and pay your bills? Then you're just part of the experiment. Or as you said in the beginning of the show, and I heard when I first called in, are you going to be controlled by your environment, or are you going to be the one that's controlling the environment? See, a lot of people are controlled by their environment, and they use that as an excuse why they can't succeed. That's the shit that's got to stop. We're not living in slave times no more. We're not living at the time where we don't have access to things. We can now get up into every aspect of his society and system and infiltrate. If you really want to make a difference and you don't like politics, then get the fuck up in there on the inside where you can have an effect. Don't be on the outside complaining about the shit. Well, I don't agree with what Obama did with this and this and that. All right, well, if that's the case and you're really sincere about it, then you need some shape, form, or fashion. How can you get in that venue to make an impact? And you can, other than complaining about the shit, because if you're not going on that route, then I just got to take that as a bunch of bitching and complaining. You understand? And if you want to sit here and rant, we do a lot of it. And if you want to sit there and rant and rave about how the government, this and that, and how they influence, well, if you really want to know that, get the fuck on the inside on some facet, form, or fashion and educate yourself to that. Don't sit here and tell me all your conspiracy theories, because they're not going to tell you, Bob Smith, who works in Home Depot, about all the deep secrets of the CIA. If you want to know about the motherfucking CIA, other than just theorizing about it, get the fuck up in there on the inside and see what you can learn and what you can do. And believe it or not, whether you want to really accept that reality or not, there are people that are doing it. Let's not just paint this picture that everything is controlled by the white man. You understand? Right. Because we got people that have taken it to that level where if you want to make the same thing with the educational system, open your own charter school, come up with your own curriculum. All you got to do, real simple, if you don't want your children to be indoctrinated, and we've talked about that a multitude of times, all you got to do, whatever state you live in, is meet the state requirements on the basic curriculum, math, reading, and writing, and then you can institute whatever curriculum to that you want. You can teach your own history, your own culture. So if you're going to sit there and say and bitch and complain about the school system, then get a group of people and open up a charter school where you control the curriculum that you teach your damn children. Don't sit there and bitch and complain because you're too lazy to take the time and the money to invest and put the work in that it takes to make a change and a difference, and bitch and complain how the school system is fucked up and they bringing guns to school, and they are, and they shooting kids, and they are, and they're being taught bullshit, and they are. Well, what's the solution to that? I'm not going to sit around and get into a circle and sit there and have a let's blame the white man fucking tea party. I'm going to say, well, who really wants to be sincere? Let's open our own charter school, and let's come up with our own curriculum for our children, and there you go. There's a solution to the bitching and the moaning. It can be done. So it's not about finding why it can't be done, because we can find a million reasons why it can't be done. I could be here again all night talking to you about that, but I guarantee you we can find a lot more, just as many reasons that these things can be accomplished. And
we won't be able to accomplish unless we start learning self-mastery and start getting stocking up on our spirituality. Before we get into the second segment, couple of things we want to touch on is Kundalini energy. I want to talk about reincarnation just to get your mind prep. But I also want to talk about when you talk about and we want to talk about the people want to hear about some self-healing, some things they can do at home to kick this thing off. Because a lot of people, what I like about you and the way and the reason why I promote you, which you'll go and listen to my show, I don't push a lot of people. It's probably not even a handful, that I really have a deep affinity for. So I like you because you get to the point. We cut to the chase. We don't have time because, I mean, they don't understand, and I want you to address also this Mayan calendars and the calendars and what's going on, the seasons and the times. I want you to explain to people, my community, which is diverse, how to pay attention and stop with the spookism, because you got a lot of spooky people out there. I know brothers that got shows that's all they talking about is the sky's gonna fall, they're poisoning the water, the air, the chemtrails, the land, there's no water, they're about to take the food, they're turning off the lights, and I talk about some of these things, but I talk about, you may need to look at that and be prepared, have a couple of flashlights, some candles, but I think most of y'all just scared to be in the dark because you had to think about your damn self.
Right.
Can you go in that closet? Masonically, me and Mike can relate to that. Can you go in that closet, close that damn door? Some of us had to stay in there for a long time, bro. And your shirt was wet. You had snot coming out your nose. You was crying. You was feeling guilty. That's what Masonry is about. For those of y'all, that's what it's about. It's about self-reflection, self-mastery, and that's all it's about. Okay?
That's right. That's right.
Let's talk about that, Mike, and doing all these things when we talk about the schools. Yeah, the schools is an issue, but we just love these conveniences, man. We love the fact that the government gives us free babysitting for us to go to work, and we love the fact that, we want to come in. Some people want some reparations, too. We got some of those, They've been having welfare forever. Look, my mom was on welfare. Let's not even play bougie. My mom was getting food stamps for a long time. My aunts, my uncles, a lot of my family, and y'all still talk about reparations and whatnot. Now, y'all know I'm of the position that the government is nothing but welfare because that's what they get from us. They derive all their power, authority, energy, economics, everything, wealth from us. But when I talk about welfare, it's like we're always looking for something. We're looking for Jesus to come out the sky. Man, I wish I could have talked to my parents, my ancestors, long time ago and asked them when he coming. Because I'm just like, I've been a kid, like, when is he coming? Well, we know he's not coming now. The Pope told, the way the Pope said it, Mike, I keep talking about this Pope because I like this dude. Because he's like, look, Jesus ain't coming. He probably, I forget what he said. He said he probably, Tiff, what did he say? He probably having a drink or turning water into wine. Some like funny stuff. I'm like, damn.
But they exactly. They know it's metaphorical. They because the Pope deep down inside knows Jesus is a mythological character. But I want to back up something that you said that was important when you were talking about some of these other people that do these shows and they talking about the skyfall and the chemtrails. We have people talking about the food being poisoning, chemicals in the food, all these things that are happening. But what people don't focus on, if they're doing chemtrails, if they're poisoning the water, if they're injecting steroids in the meat, and we know they're doing this to all the foods, not even just the meat, they injected preservative, chemicals, steroids into grapes. Anything that doesn't have a seed, there's no such thing as seedless grapes or seedless watermelons. It doesn't exist. These are all genetically cloned, man-made things. Now, they're doing all these things, but what is that also confirmation of? All these brothers that come to me with these things, we're still here. Thank you. So confirmation is they're doing all these things. It means none of it is working. Because the very fact that they have to do a multitude of things shows the power that we have. Look, man, we've overcome crack, angel dust. They come at us with methamphetamine. They come at us with anything that you can think of. And they're like, these motherfuckers just keep surviving. They thought crack was going to do us in, and now crack spread to their people. And not only is crack just killing black people, crack is killing everybody now. Meth is killing everybody now. So they're like, shit, they don't know what else to throw us. Angel dust was almost their last straw. And if you know what angel dust is, it's embalming fluid. Basically, when you smoke angel dust, the same thing that they embalm dead bodies with is the same thing or the key component in the drug that they call angel dust. So it takes you to a euphoria. And if you've ever seen anybody high on angel dust, and they call it angel dust because they're giving it a term where you become indestructible. You're like an angel, infallible. I've watched people get cracked over their heads with baseball bats when they were hit high on angel dust. has no effect on you whatsoever.
Rodney King, what was he on, Mike? Rodney King was on what, coke or angel dust or something?
He was on that PCP, man. He was on that dust. Ooh. And this is why when you watch Rodney King take that whooping and keep getting up, man, you don't want a melanated person to have that in their system, because just like you have higher levels of ether, you can get pulled over by a cop and you might have had 1 or 2 beers and you're not drunk, but that coupled with the natural ether level in your body, you might take that test and come up on that DUI test as being intoxicated, even though you're not, because your ether levels are higher than the normal person. So the cops know this shit. So they look for black folks driving, coming out of clubs and parties, because you might take that test and be like, I ain't drunk, I only had 2 beers or 2 drinks. I'm fine. You might even pass the physical test, but you fail the breathalyzer, and that's all they need to do to lock your ass up. Say, well, yeah, you passed the physical test, but we just gave you the breathalyzer, and your alcohol level is above the state minimum. That's because you have to factor in when you're a melanated person and you drink alcohol, that's coupled in with the natural ether level that's already in your body. Most people don't know that shit, and I'm sure that somebody listening to this show got arrested for DUI and clearly knew they were not physically drunk. And they're like, what the fuck is going on? They know this shit, and this is why they pull black people over and give them this DUI test, and they pawn themselves strategically in these locations because they got to make quota. So they know where to go, what time of the month, when. They know where you like to hang out. They know the restaurants you like to eat in. They know the clubs you frequent. So they waiting to pray for you to come out. Oh, we got one right here. Here you go. He just left the club. He's got to have a couple of drinks up in him, or she's got to have a couple of drinks up in her. Let's pull him over. And now they got your ass. So we have to be conscious of that. Let's talk about that. So we know
Mike.
A lot of these.
So you would be a goddamn. I just gave you another business. You'd be a damn expert witness and said that's the science of what's going on. You don't think they know this science? So there you go. Mike is an expert witness for all you gurus out there that want to talk about traffic and DUIs. There you go. You got your scientific master to get on there and say, listen, man, it's different for Pookie than it is for Juan Manuel, and what it is for Katie, and what it is for you know. Woo.
That's it.
Go ahead, Mike.
That's a scientific fact. People don't understand that, and they'll never tell you that as long as you don't, take the time out to learn it. But the other thing that you were saying, like you said, you got all these people dealing with path of self-mastery. We don't like to bullshit, like you say. We don't like to cut corners. Get to the point. Now, I'm not knocking anybody, but everybody's got to make their money, and I don't knock anybody for making their money. But we have a lot of people that'll say, I'll give you the secrets if you enroll in my school, or you take my class, or you join my organization. See, that's the catch. And again, I'm not knocking it because I know some people do it for a living. They have to make their money. But at the same token, we got to get this thing right as a collective. So bottom line is path to self-mastery, and as you mentioned, some healing techniques. I'm not one of those dudes. I ain't got no gimmicks. I'm not telling you to join shit. I'm not telling you need to take my class, because if you don't take my class, you're not going to become a master. That's a bunch of bullshit. That's a sales pitch. And then, and if that's your thing and you got to have salesmanship, hey, power to you. But all I'm saying is if I choose not to take your class, don't be upset with me, because I feel like I'm at a point I don't need anybody. I don't need anybody's class. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
So my whole point is we can do little things, healing techniques. Let me throw a couple of those out there real quick.
Mm-hmm. Y'all listen up. Get your pen.
I find most effective chakras doing certain healing techniques with your chakras are key. Let me give you an example. If, for an example, you want to do healing work with your root chakra, why the root chakra is so important? Because you have to be grounded in your root chakra in order for anything else to work spiritually. Because you always hear people talking about the brow chakra or the pineal gland and the crown chakra, like I'm working with my crown chakra. Well, if that root chakra is not grounded, you ain't working with shit. I don't care what you think you're working with. Bottom line is, you need to make sure you're grounded in your root chakra, which roots you to physical, the ground, or the planet, the earth, but it also makes sure you're balanced on the physical. That's just a basic aspect of it. Meaning, for an example, if you wanted to do a healing technique with the root chakra, okay, you can take the color red. Anything in the red, pinkish, reddish, mauve color family. Here's a healing technique that works very effective. Now, the key to the path to self-mastery, I don't want you to take what I'm about to tell you right now. This is just a guideline. The key is creating your own path. So you can use this to maybe give you some helpful tips. I am by all means not telling you to do it, the exact way I'm getting ready to tell you, but this is what works for me. I'm telling you to take this as a general idea, and you can add your own flavor to it or subtract from it and do what your spirit feels right for you. So I'm just going to give you the basics. So something that I'll do for the root chakra, I'll get a red candle, and I'll get certain, per se, you can do amethyst stones, or you can take a crystal, red candle. You can get fragrances such as sandalwood, patchouli, and frankincense that are scents that stimulate and heighten this chakra. So what I'll do is I'll use those fragrances, and I'll take one of the two crystals or stones, and I'll hold them in each hand in the center of my palm, and I'll just, with a little bit of tension, not super tight, I'll squeeze the crystals in the palm of my hands as I'm sitting. I'll do it on a straight back chair. That's the most comfortable way I like to meditate. It's just sitting in a straight back chair. You could do this on the floor. Some people like to meditate flat on their back, laying down. That works too. I do that occasionally. You can sit in a lotus position, whatever position makes you comfortable. I do it in a chair. I have the two crystals or stones, each hand, in the palm of my hand, my hand balled up in a fist with just a little bit of tension, just enough to just squeeze stones just a little bit. Burn that red candle, which that red candle, what I choose to do before it, charge that red candle with your spiritual energy. Now, you could take any one of those oils or fragrances that stimulate that chakra. I would suggest you dump a little bit of that in on if it's a glass candle, on the top. If you have a wax candle that's not enclosed in glass, I'd put some of that oil on the palm of your hand. And if you're trying to rid yourself of negative energy, just simply, real simple task. What you want to do is start from the center of the candle. And if you start from the center, rub in a clockwise motion down to the bottom. The same thing you do from the center up to the top clockwise. So that represents removal. If you were drawing in positive energy, you would do the reverse. You would simply start from the top of the candle, go counterclockwise to the center, and from the bottom of the candle, counterclockwise. Now, some people like to also tie it into the movement or the gravitational pull of the moon or the planets. So some people will do it if the moon is, per se, is waxing, that's the time to draw energy. If the moon is waning, that's the time to eliminate negative energy. I personally, it's not mandatory. You don't have to go by the moon cycles because your mental energy charges it regardless. So I'm not one that really, I wouldn't get caught up in the phases of the moon. Some people do when they work magic or doing spiritual principles with candles. I don't think it's necessary because I found I can do it regardless if it's waning or waxing. But I would light that red candle after you spiritually charge it. And while you're charging that candle, that's when you send your energy to what is it you're trying to accomplish. If you're not grounded in your root chakra, I would simply focus on, I need to be more balanced on the physical realm, such as finances, dealing with my family, my marriage or my relationship. You know, I need that balanced energy to it. You know, if it's lacking, you know, maybe communication, I would focus on communication with my partner if that was a area I'm using for an example. So you want to focus on things on the physical realm that you might need some adjusting to. Then I would simply light the candle, okay, as you light that red candle, and if you have your own personal sacred space, your own shrine, I definitely recommend you do it at your own personal shrine. I would sit there in your meditation position holding those two crystals and stones, and I would just simply focus on my root chakra, and I would visualize the color that stimulates it, which is that red or pinkish aura, and visualize healing energy. Now, this is how I would do it. You don't have to do it this way, but this is how I do it. I visualize that healing energy coming through the crown chakra, working its way down through all my chakras, starting from the crown all the way down, then getting to what we call our sacral chakra, which is by the navel, and then I visualize all that energy being charged into the root chakra if I was trying to balance out some energy that was lacking. Now, if I was removing negative energy, say I had a problem with spending money or my diet was jacked up and I needed more discipline in that area, then I would visualize it reverse, leaving the root chakra, working its way up through all the chakras and exiting through the crown chakra. So you have to visualize the color that you're working with. Now, it might be green when you're dealing with other chakras as far as healing, but we're dealing with red because it's rooted in the earth. So there's a science behind the colors and the spectrum that you have to educate yourself to, because when you visualize these colors, they do harness a powerful energy. Now, if you're not sure, here's something else I want to throw out there. that you can connect to this. If you're not sure of what color to work with, here's a simple experiment you can do to check what color your aura is vibrating at. There's 2 ways you can do this. Once you discipline yourself on this, you don't need to do the first way anymore. The first way is real simple. Get a backdrop behind you that is just a plain wall, or it could be a projector screen. A plain wall works fine. If it's white, preferably works better. It doesn't have to be. What I suggest you do is get an amber-colored light, shine the amber-colored light on the wall, facing the wall. Now, you'll be facing the opposite way, sitting in a chair, and you need to place yourself at a desk or a small table where you can put a mirror where you're face level with the mirror. All right, I want you to pay close attention to this. So let me review that real quick once again. You got the amber light facing the backdrop of the wall behind you. Okay, I want to be clear that people understand that. You're facing the other way, sitting at a table or a desk with a mirror that's level with your face. Cut off all the lights. First, sit, relax, and breathe. Close your eyes. Get yourself into a state of relaxation. When you're into that state of relaxation, open your eyes. Stare in the mirror intensely at your eyes. Study the position from the brow, where your forehead is, to where your eyes are, and the bridge of your nose. Then stare intensely at your eyes. You're going to see the color. After you do it for a few minutes, you'll see the exact color of your aura vibrating around your head. Now, if it comes up dark, muddier colors, such as brown, indigo, then you know you're not grounded in that root chakra. There's a disconnect there. If it comes up yellow, blue, green, you're in a higher states of spiritual elevation. So you don't need to work there where you might need to focus being more grounded physically. Depending on the color that you see after you do this personal experiment is going to tell you what colors to work with and where to go. Now, eventually when you discipline yourself, you don't need to use the amber light no more. All you need to do is use the mirror. And the mirror is powerful because an occultist knows how to use the mirror. The mirror is the doorway to other realms. Now, you've seen they've made horror movies over in the years, spooking the shit out.
That's right.
But the mirror is a powerful... The Candyman, and they got that other one, Oculus, and some other shit that I saw. But once you discipline yourself, you don't need the amber light no more. All you need is the mirror. And once you intensely are able to get yourself into that state of receptivity, you can capture the aura that is vibrating around you. Not only that, you can also see the aura of other people, which is key. And that's why I said when I go out in public, I'm an observer. I watch shit. I see shit because it not only does it just educate me on a surface level, but it educates me on a spiritual people. Now, I will also warn this, not in a negative way. Don't get spooked out, but you'll start seeing, we might call it shapeshifters, but you'll start seeing the real essence of who and what people are when you really start disciplining yourself. And that opens the doorway to those experiences, and you need to be prepared for that. And that definitely happens to a lot of people that are already linked in anyway, because some people naturally are more spiritual, and it doesn't make them special. I'm just saying some people are more genetically connected than others to the spiritual realm, so it's easier for them to access, whereas some people got to discipline themselves a little bit more. But you will start seeing and experiencing, which is the key, these things. So when I would be able to determine what the halut is vibrating at, or the aura, then I would be able to work in conjunction with those colors. And then I like to connect certain chakras that work with those attributes, and I would do healing techniques and visualizations on that, such as the one I just mentioned with the root chakra. Another quick one I'll throw out there, if it is the solar or the sacral chakra, you can do a simple ritual. For an example, you could work with I did a whole post on this on YouTube. For an example, you can also use healing rituals of tapping in to the archetype energies of what we call the deities. Say Ra. Ra deals with the sun, solar. He also is connected to the constellation, the bull, which is Taurus. So when the planet is in sequence with Taurus, you can access the solar energy if, say, per se, you needed that sacral chakra to vibrate at its correct frequency. So I would focus on those colors, and I would do a visualization. Or you might want to do for that particular period that the planet is in the sign of Taurus, I would specifically do meditations and affirmations to the archetype energy of Ra. I would simply meditate. I would absorb every element of what Ra represents from an archetype perspective. The element of fire, which deals with the solar and the sun. The flame can heal, it can regenerate, it can burn, it can decalcify, and it can also destroy. You understand? So I would be focusing on the solar principles to get that sacral chakra to vibrate at its correct frequencies. That's what Ra really represents. We got to stop looking at these deities as if they were actual physical beings and we're worshiping them like we did in monotheism and religion. That's not what the shit is about. These were archetype representations of things that existed in our subconscious mind. It represents everything that's going on internally when you're reading about creation, when you're reading about the story of the deities as our ancient ancestors recorded them in the pyramids. They were telling you what was going on inside of you. So when you tap into that element of it and you want to tap into healing energy and frequencies, that's a perfect way to do it. Now, another simple way, and I'll leave with this because I know you want to take a break, but this is a very thorough topic,
go ahead.
So it's hard to kind of...
You roll. You don't stop till you get ready. Go ahead.
Okay, sound and vibration is very key. Now, you'll find, we talked about music in the beginning of the show. Harmonics. Remember, the universe is constructed on harmonics and sound. That's important to understand. So another great way to bring healing energy to yourself, physically, mentally, emotionally, or spiritually, is by gravitating towards certain mantras. For example, I'll use the one basic that everybody's familiar with, Om or Aum. There's two variations of it. OM and AUM are two different things, and they carry two different vibrations. So when one is chanting that, certain chants have an effect on the kidneys, the liver, circulation, the heart. It increases and it activates. It can overactivate or underactivate your thyroid gland. Remember, all the chakras are connected in to a specific gland. The throat is the thyroid gland. So if your throat chakra is out of whack, it can overactivate your thyroid gland. This is why a lot of people that are overweight are not just overweight because they eat a lot. If you're that person that's overweight and you don't really eat a lot, you might want to check that overactivation of that thyroid gland. And even though medical people can't figure out why they can't get your thyroid gland where it needs to be, that's because it's your throat chakra that's out of whack. And that thyroid gland will never be in sync if you don't balance that throat chakra out. So this is important to understand. Now, mantras and chants and certain vibrations can bring healing to every aspect of your body, your heart, liver, kidneys, etc. So when you're chanting Aum, what that does, it creates and it resonates a healing frequency to the circulatory and the heart system. So it helps making sure that that functions at its correct capacity. Now, we know our heart and our central nervous system, which we need a healthy central nervous system to receive the impulses from the universe, because if our central nervous system ain't functioning correctly, we know what happens. We could have a nervous breakdown brought on by stress and a bunch of negative energy, and then we can get, some people get so bad they become sick, physical ailments start kicking in, and some people can have nervous breakdowns, go on to psychiatric wards, and then they get ingested with a whole bunch of drugs and chemicals and prescriptions. And like I said before, the worst thing melanated people can do is take an overabundance of synthetic medications, especially antibiotics, because what antibiotics does is it strips the body of all the good bacteria. And that's why I always tell people daily, I take every day one natural living probiotic culture of 5 billion live cells. If you go to the herb store and get the refrigerated kind, not the non-refrigerated kind, because that shit don't work. You can go to Vitamin World, you can go to any herb store, go in there and buy the natural probiotic, 5 to 10 billion living bacteria, take one a day. And it replaces all the good bacteria that's destroyed from eating bad food, from eating preservatives, chemicals, processed sugars. If you do this once a day, it'll help you'll see your digestive system will improve. Your bowel movements will be regular, and it will protect you, because we can't protect ourselves from all of this shit that's destroying us physically. It's impossible. I don't care how organic you are. I don't give a shit if you go to Whole Foods 7 days a week. All that shit ain't there isn't organic, contrary to what you believe. If you ain't plucking it from Mother Earth yourself and growing it, it's not 100% organic. Let's establish that shit. I don't want to get into a whole diet thing, but let's establish that. So I would recommend when you educate yourself to those principles, you can pinpoint what type of healing energy you need. So mantras and chants are a great element. Here's another ritual. Take a white candle I recommend you do this at your personal shrine, okay? Now, white is always good to use when you don't have just a specific intent. It's general. White just represents the absence of all colors, balancement. Black represents the emergence of all colors. When you're trying to banish and you're trying to remove anything, black is the strongest absorbing color. So I work with the color black when I want to eliminate anything. And that's what a black magician does. Black is powerful. It's not negative color. When dealing with healing techniques or magic, it's the most powerful color. So if you're spooked out about it and you still got mythologies about burning black candles, then this ain't the shit for you. But I constantly have a black candle burning on my shrine with a white candle to balance out that multi-diversity of the energies that exist in the universe. We need both of those. So one's got to be absorbing and one's got to be giving. When you understand that principle, that gets into a whole nother science. But if you want to, for an example, just regenerate the cells in your body, let's just say cells that are being destroyed on a cellular level on a regular basis. You want to replace the good bacteria. You want to stimulate, the glandular system in your body or the circulatory system in your body. I simply recommend you get a white candle. Get any fragrance you choose. Doesn't have to be anything in particular. And I would just simply light that white candle. Get yourself into a state of receptivity, relax and breathe, and get into a rhythmic chant of the Om principle. As you start to do it and you lock into a few minutes, you'll start feeling a tingling sensation at the bridge of your nose if you're doing it correctly. Now, getting your correct tone is another key because you'll know when you hit your correct tone and pitch. And everybody needs to do their mantras and chants in their correct tone and pitch. And that can be anywhere on the A to F scale on the musical chart. Most men, melanated men, not Caucasian men, they're on a higher pitch from C on up. Most melanated men is C to D major. Mine is D major. And when I chant in the tone of D major, I can feel where the pineal gland is start to tingle, and you'll get locked in. And the beauty of it is, whether you're doing it as a group or individual, once you're locked in, it sounds like there's a million people there chanting with you. That's how you know you've opened up that vibrational frequency or that porthole, for lack of a better word, to another dimension where now you've tapped in to the higher self. And once you feel that, you can start visualizing any aspect, say physically you might need healing with, any part of your body, or spiritually. You could focus on a specific situation, and you'll be surprised, if you do it correctly, the benefits that you can get from this. It's a powerful tool. That's just a couple. So I just want to throw a few of them out there. I mean, there's many more. But again, you don't have to do them exactly the way I said. I want you to create your own path. I just want to throw a few of those out there.
Damn, boy. I got carpal tunnel, man. I was writing. Mike throwing it down. Y'all said y'all wanted it, right? Y'all scared of that now. You know he didn't say go to the doctor. He said go to GNC and get one thing. Well, y'all scared of self, and y'all got a problem. Y'all scared of yourself. This is self-mastery, self-healing, which goes back how far, Mike? We're not. It goes past the Constitution, right? It goes past.
It goes way past.
Okay, way past there. Thank you, man. Thank you. Because I'm thinking that you told somebody that it didn't, then they'll be like, well, that's one of the things that are connected to the Constitution and to slavery when it was. They start masturbating like that. But that was tight, Mike. That was, woo! How often do you do this, Mike? Every day? Is this what you wake up
it's not necessary
for you?
No, I mean, I do it whenever the spirit feels the need. I mean, when you listen to your higher self, you can call it our inner voice, our inner being, your higher, whatever term you want to give it to get you through the day. Whenever you feel your spirit or you feel the urge, you'll know the disconnect. Like, for an example, if I'm not feeling well physically, most people don't know. If you, per se, let's just use the basic concept of a cold or a flu. 90% of the time, that's because there's a spiritual disconnect in the body. Now, if I'm not feeling well physically, say I feel just my body doesn't feel right physically, I know I can analyze and say, well, you know what, these last couple of weeks, I ain't really been up on my study and my meditation. So what my body is trying to tell me is there's a spiritual disconnect going on. We have something in our bodies called the silver cord. In some metaphysical schools of thought, they call it. Some call it the etheric cord. What tends to happen is when that etheric or that silver cord gets disrupted, the body starts feeling physical ailments of it. What basically is happening is you might be feeding the physical too much, meaning you might be eating that might be in a week where you might have ingested a lot more bad food. Let's use that for an example. You might not have meditated on a regular basis, because sometimes we just, and when I say meditate, it can also be just simply to the point of sitting in a quiet, contemplative mind state. Sometimes the body just needs healing and the mind needs healing by just sitting in darkness and silence. No candles, no incense, no lights, nothing. Because in that darkness, if you're really up on your Bible, and nobody really is up on their Bible, it says the light shineth in the darkness, and the darkness comprehendeth it not. That ain't Jesus. That's not what that quote is talking about. And if you've traveled to some of the esoterical mysteries, you know what that light that shines in the darkness is. That's the pure intellect. That's talking about the mind, because that's the true light that all people are really trying to seek. You understand? It has nothing to do with Jesus or a physical being. But you'll find out sometimes just sitting in that darkness, as we mentioned earlier, or going into the closet, is a regenerating tool. So you might not be feeling well, and that's a message that the body's sending to the mind that, look, this is a time maybe to do a healing technique for a particular part of my body. Or mentally, you might have been experiencing migraines, or you might have had a stressful week where you overworked your mind, because your mind and your subconscious mind are like a computer. It can overload with information. So you might need to focus on the crown chakra, and you might have to send some healing energy for mental purposes. So I'll basically dictate what I do as far as healing work based on my needs at the moment. I do suggest, though, on a consistent basis, whether it's for 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes, whatever floats your boat, I always recommend when you first get up in the morning, and I know everybody's schedule is different. I'm up early in the morning. So I'll do a short, brief meditation in the morning. Never, ever start your day or set out with the intentions of your day when not contacting the higher self. Not giving, thought to your ancestors, number one, and tying yourself in and asking for the cosmic to be open and receptive to you. And visualize briefly what you're setting out to do that day before you even start your day. I never recommend anybody starting their day out with a brief meditation just to get their day going. And it could be 2 minutes, 5 minutes. I do it every morning in front of my shrine. And then before you go to bed, which is critical, and I'm going to tell you why. Nighttime is the most critical because every experience that you ingest and experience during the day is going to affect your dream state. And the worst thing one can do when they go to sleep at night, which is not sit for a brief couple of moments, again, take your picking. It could be 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour, whatever floats your boat. You should always sit there and do a brief meditation before you go to sleep, whether it's reflecting on the day. What I like to do is reflect on the day, the good things and the positive things, and maybe some of the things that didn't go right. And I like to visualize what I would do better to correct them. And the best thing to do before you go to sleep is to communicate and simply say, you want to be opened up to the spiritual realm by way of your dreams, and if the cosmic has any messages to convey, I am open and receptive to receive that. Say that every night before you go to sleep, and you will find out your dreams will be enhanced just by that simple affirmation, because what you're doing by doing that, you are invoking the energy of the cosmos. You're saying, I'm open and receptive. Remember, it doesn't petition you unless you make yourself receptive to it. So that's the key. So you'll find out your dreams are one of your most powerful vehicles to reveal information, knowledge, and wisdom to you. And you'll have all types of experiences. You might see a deceased mother, a grandmother, who will come in the form of that because that's what you want to see and will communicate certain principles and certain information to you. If you're confused about something and you don't know, all you have to simply do is make that petition before going to bed. Say, look, this situation happened today. I'm confused. I don't understand it. I'm petitioning the cosmic to explain this to me so I can have a better understanding of it. I guarantee you when you go to sleep that night, shit will start changing rapidly. So I would recommend on a daily basis at least do that very simple morning and evening thing consistently, and you'll be surprised. You'll start knowing shit you didn't know before. You'll be open to spiritual experiences you weren't open to in the past. You'll start, a multitude of things will change on a variety of levels. Let me just put it that way.
Yeah, that's an understatement. All right, we're gonna take a small break, like 3 or 4 minutes. I'm gonna hit the community and my man Mike with some Brucey B, but we're gonna come back and talk about Kundalini energy, which is the energy that exists in everyone's body, usually in a dormant state if you're not exercising these things that Mike is talking about, density. Most people you know, never know what it is, especially, you know, some of us just grew up with institutionalized religion. It could be a good event or a bad event. So we're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about reincarnation. Again, so we get into the centerpiece of things, and this is what I like about Mike. He going to give it to you. You ain't got to take his school. You ain't got to fly out. You ain't got to do 8 webinars.
Right.
You know what I mean? He just going to give it to you raw. Right. So we're going to come back, keep the raw, the sushi going on. I'm going to play this music, and we'll be back about 3-4 minutes. All right.
What you gonna play now? Bobby? I don't know. But whatever I play, got to be funky. And then, on the second, make some people leave the standstill. That's the way I'm saying. And now, for a second, I like the way this whole shit is going down. Come on, 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 come on.
My
Now, when it's like when the whole shit is going
All right, we back. Hey, yo, let me tell y'all something. Y'all know I got a thug side, right? Y'all know that bougie thing on Tuesdays, not really me. That music right there, I'm sitting back, I'm laying back, I'm like, those of y'all in New York, y'all know Brucey B, man. This is when the Echo Chamber just came out. That's 80s right there. That's 84, 85. That dude you listening to on that Echo, when you heard Brucey B in the Rooftop was a big roller skating rink uptown. I lived up 2 blocks when I got my first apartment. I was over there by the battlegrounds. That's where all the ball players come play rugby games, all that. Y'all see in the summertime, I mean, that's the happening place. That music right there, that was one of the best DJs in the country, man. Do y'all hear me? Brucey B was Star Child, man. Yeah, Kid Capri came later. But that there, Mike, that's memories, man. Like, I'm like, and I didn't roller skate, Mike. I couldn't.
Yeah, I sucked at roller skating too. I used to go to the Empire. I used to go to hot skates out in Long Island. I went Empire in Brooklyn. But that one took me back there because Brucey B incorporated. If you were listening closely, It's a Man's World by James Brown, what he used on the intro. I mean, he was the master at incorporating those little hooks, and as we know, James Brown's one of the most sampled artists. I mean, Funky Drummer had to be one of the most sampled beats in the 80s and 90s. I mean, they're still using that shit today. But the Funky Drummer was like, man, you could play that hook in a club, just the original hook off the James Brown album, and people would just go out of their fucking mind.
People go crazy. Go crazy. I was sitting up here going crazy.
Yeah, man.
Man, if y'all ain't know, like, Rooftop was a skating rink. That's where everybody went. If you was in New York, that's where you went to Rooftop.
That's right.
And when Brucey B was on there and Bruce came in, it was a wrap. Like, I didn't roller skate. I was always Fly's pretty boy. I always had the 40 belows. I had the flight jackets on. I was, top and bottom, had shoes and jacket had to match. No hat, fresh haircut. We spent all day in the barbershop, Mike. You get there at 7 o'clock. To try to get out of there by 1, 2 o'clock. Fresh cut, you slept on your hands. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Fresh afro cut, you ain't laid out. You slept on your fist. You understand? Because your cut was fresh. The women loved it.
You had to get a Caesar.
Was fresh.
The Caesar. You can't forget.
For real.
Yeah.
For real. High top fade. Curlied up, you know what I mean? Boy, those were the days, man. Damn, Mike, those were the days.
Yeah.
Woo.
Hey,
man,
you can go back there anytime, brother. Anytime you want to go back there, you can go back.
That's true. I think the next time I go in the closet, I'm going back there, man, to see if I can pick up some of those good ways that I had. But, man, we enjoyed that last dissertation, man. That monologue you gave on the self-healing and them man, that was people texting, people emailing like, yo, I'm like, yo, it's on replay, man. It's on replay. Listen, man. It's on replay. Mike throwing it down. That's what I like about it, man, because a lot of these cats, they rather do the spookism, man, or they rather, masturbate about the Bible, about religion, or white and black, we don't have time, man. We don't.
No, it's irrelevant.
Yes. So let's get into the Kundalini energy, Mike, and what that is, and then reincarnation to give the people perspective on how to understand what this is, reincarnation. A lot of people talk about it. You got a lot of those intellectual masqueraders that they want to talk about, well, when you take the A, B, and the C element and you add that to the situation, and then you mix in that, and then they talking and they all over, they like American Airlines, they all over your head, man. And you say, and some dudes be like, yep. I'm like, dude, you don't even know what he's talking about. Man. Shut up. You don't even understand when you take the molecules, you mix the molecules with the liquid, and you plug that into the socket, son. Then what you do is you philosophize the situation there too, and Mike, you know what I'm talking about.
Exactly.
Can we get off all that and let Brother Mike bring it, the magician, Magic Mike, bring that and try to teach us, the right way without all the fanciness,
Right. Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that part up. Yeah, people get see, one thing I find in these topics, I use the term, you got a lot of people that moose. And what moosing is, basically, you kind of add your flavor to it. You understand? When topics like this, a lot of it has to do with personal experience. You can't, let's look at it this way. Nobody really knows. I'm going to use the death concept real quick and tie it into reincarnation. Let's be real. Nobody really knows what happens to you when you die. I don't give a fuck who you are, what you claim to know. I don't care what pyramid text you read. I don't care how well you studied the opening of the mouth ceremony. The only way you're going to realize that is when you actually either had a near-death experience and came back, or you actually go through the full transition. Now, we can theorize all day. We can use science, and we can come up with a multitude of theories that are a possibility, no doubt. And that's the problem. What tends to happen when I say diarrhea of the mouth, people like to over-intellectualize shit rather than just say there's not a definitive answer to some of these topics that we're going to discuss now. So when dealing with reincarnation and death, a lot of this has to come from personal confirmation. It's not something you can read in a book. It's not something somebody can teach and just give you their perspective on it, or somebody can enforce upon you their own personal experiences. Now, you can share your personal experiences to shed some information on it, but one has to come to the realization, self-realization of what reincarnation is, based on spiritual premonitions, number one. Now, we know for a fact, okay, we can use history and our own selves. We experience certain things where we might say, damn, I felt like I experienced that before. We call it deja vu. You might be walking down the block, and like I think I mentioned this on the last show, and we all do this. We're approaching somebody. We're walking. And as you get closer and closer, even though you see this person, when you get closer to them, you still are in confusion which way to go. You go to the left, that person goes to the right, which is your left. You go to the right. You might both move 2 or 3 times to the same direction before you actually can separate. Now, some occultists, in theory, in dealing with energy, magnetism, and past lives, will say you were spiritually, those were 2 souls or 2 energies that lived in another lifetime. Now, can that be proven? No, that shit can't be proven. I'm giving you theories that awaken the senses to prove that you've been here before. So we've all experienced illusions of grandeur, or what we call deja vu. We all feel like I know this person before. I felt like I've met this person. I went through this experience. I felt like I've already experienced this, or I felt like I've been here before. So when we come to the realization that there's something to our existence that we're sensing that we've been here before, and we have been here before, the true way to confirm this is one has to go into deep astral travel or deep states of meditation and concentration. And it's as simple, again, like we were talking about before the break, to petition the cosmic for the answer of who you were in the past life. And when you open yourself up to that receptivity, you can see how many times you were here, what incarnation you're on now, who you were in past lives. Now, I'd suggest when you find that info out, don't go promoting this shit like, oh, I used to, because unfortunately some Negroes get eccentric with it. Or in the past life, I was an incarnation of Osiris. Now you got a bunch of Negroes running around thinking they're Osiris. I wouldn't suggest you do it in that sense. I would suggest, because you cannot convince other people to accept your personal experiences, because when they do, this is how religion starts. We don't want to start another religion. So when you just start accepting shit and you didn't confirm or experience it for yourself, we have now started another religion. So reincarnation, most definite, we have definitely been here a multitude of times. You're going to find out, and again, now I'm going to speak only on what I can speak on based on my own personal experiences. I cannot speak on this topic other than my own personal experiences, and this is not going to apply to everybody, and nor should it. But I have found out, I have been here a multitude of times, and I've found out also, just like many other people that have intensified their studies, and I'm going to make reference to, per se, Dr. Delbert Blair has explained this, and I've had him on my show a couple of times. He's explained this a couple of times, and Phil Valentine, not so much in the same light. But I have personally confirmed that when you come back to master what you hate. So there's that old byproduct, you become what you hate. So what tends to happen, whatever you are in this existence, you came back in this existence because it's something you didn't master in a prior existence. So you're going to keep coming here. And again, I want to be clear on what I'm saying now. It's not in a book. It's not written anywhere. Nobody's going to confirm them for you. You have to confirm these things for yourself by raising up your spiritual vibration and frequency and open yourself up to the cosmic to petition past life existences if that's what you want. So I'm only speaking now from my own personal experience. So you keep coming back here until you master this. And you could have, hey, let's be real on this. Could be, and this might sound bizarre, and I don't want to go out in the Spookyville because I'm not a spooky dude, but you might appear now as a dark melanated person in this incarnation. You might have been a white woman in a previous incarnation. And you might be manifesting on this realm now because when you were that white woman, you despised black folks. So now you are an incarnation of what you despise because that's the way the cosmic teaches and petitions you to master something. Anything you hate, anything you fear, anything you try to avoid will continue to haunt you until you master it. And any great magician knows they must conquer everything that they fear first before they can ascend and master what we call spirituality or magic. The Native Americans do it with the shaman. In order to be a shaman, again, I mentioned earlier, they will make you take certain herbal hallucinogens so you can contact all the inner demons that exist in your subconscious mind. And what they do is draw out every fear, every premonition, everything that you're afraid of, they bring that out so you can confront it. And that's important to understand with reincarnation because when one starts to really meditate and focus on reincarnation, you will start focusing on the reasons of why you came here, how many reincarnations you have been, because I've, like I say, over the years, some people, again, personal experience, I was actually here one time as a Roman gladiator warrior in my meditation. I lived during those times, during the times of the Catholic Crusades. I was one of those people that was killing and promoting the Crusades and the violence. So I realize now I'm back. The reason why I'm so anti-religion now is everything in the past life that I was defending, I came to reality that that wasn't the correct thing to defend. So now it's revealed to me one of my reincarnations is to re-educate on that. I'm using that as an example. So when we're dealing with this concept of reincarnation, you also might want to, for an example, to acknowledge that aspect of your DNA. If you look at my shrine, any aspect that I was in a previous life, I'll have a representation of that energy on my shrine. Like I have a huge Roman gladiator statue in full regalia because that's one of my reincarnations. You understand? You want to make sure you connect with those energies because those are personalities and spirits and energies that are connected to you. And when you propagate your ancestors, not only do you have to propagate your direct bloodline, say per se mother, father, grandmother, aunts, uncles, brothers, sisters, cousins, you also have to propagate those individuals because they are connected to your DNA and your ancestry. So when I propagate my ancestors, I also propagate my beings that I might have been in a past life or what it was in a past existence, because you have to connect all that in to the big picture, to the big sum of things of what you are to understand this reincarnation. Then it's also been revealed. Once you master those things, then you become what we talked about earlier, back into what we call vital life force or pure ether. You become a pure being of energy and light. Now you have the ability to incarnate here physically at will and ascend and leave here. You're not bound or confined by person, place, or thing anymore. So you can interdimensionally travel at will, and you're not subject to the laws of person, place, or thing. So when you become or a true ascended master, you're a pure being of light and energy. And you can take on the shape and form of anything that you want. It could be male or female, because when you transcend above that realm, there is no such thing as gender. That only takes its manifestation from the fourth realm down, which is the mental plane, on down to the physical plane. When one transcends beyond the mental plane, physical gender I'm talking about, male and female, becomes irrelevant. It has nothing to do with anything. Now, that's a whole other story. I don't want to get into that right now. But whole point being is, when truly understanding what reincarnation is, and I'll leave it there before we get into the Kundalini, that's where you got to kind of start focusing your energy to. So it has to be a system of self-realization. Again, we can read tons of books on it. There's tons of theories on it. And some of them are, have their scientific basis, no doubt. There's plenty of information out there one can research. But again, it goes back to living the experience and not reading about it. So if you really want to know, my suggestion to somebody that really wants to know the mysteries of reincarnation, I would say submerge yourself into the mysteries of it and experience it for yourself, by petitioning the cosmic and petitioning the ancestors to take you to that realm and reveal to you who and what you are, what you were in a past existence, who you are now, and where you're headed. Because that is critical and key in this spiritual journey. And this transcends any other bullshit like we were talking about earlier, laws, the Constitution, politics. We tend to get wrapped up in all that political bullshit and worldly shit when we keep losing sight that we have the power to transcend above all of that shit. And I don't say that on a spooky level. Now, if you can't relate to what I'm saying, then you're that person whose chakra is vibrating at such a low frequency that you're vibrating on a material plane, that your senses are shut down, that you can't bypass or see past that reality. That's the problem. And when I'm speaking that this is a reality. This ain't no spookism. This ain't no faith and belief. This ain't no, hocus pocus that your pie in the sky will come later. I'm telling you, for all the things that we've been fighting for many years, the mysteries we've been trying to find out for so long, the answers to the questions we've been trying to seek for so long, they have always been there. We just keep looking outside of ourselves to find the answers. You're not going to find it, Allah in the sky. You're not going to find it in the Quran. There's no Jesus coming back for you. There's no God sitting in heaven waiting to wreak judgment on the earth. Those are all representations of what's going on in the subconscious mind. I think I mentioned that last time. Your Bible stories are the inner conflicts that your mind goes through on a daily basis. It's a representation of negative and positive, the yin and the yang, the chi. It's a balancement of those energies that are good and positive to you. You are the God of your universe. You are constantly creating your reality on a daily basis by your thoughts. So if you think that there's a God in the sky in heaven, guess what's giving life to that God living? It's not the God in the sky. It's you, because you're mentally sending out energy. I believe there's some God in heaven sitting in the sky that's getting ready to control everything and controls my destiny. When really, in fact of the matter, it's you that are the deity that's been controlling it all the time. So people get fucked up and jammed up because they're looking to the answers to the mysteries such as on reincarnation, life and death, etc., outside of themselves. They think they're going to find it in the church or the masjid or the temple, or they're going to become a Buddhist, and that's going to enlighten them to the path of these mysteries. That's not the case. Those are only precursors to just the baby stages of you waking up mentally and raising yourself up, and you're going to hear that word all the time, whether it's self-mastery or self-realization. Because you know when something becomes truth? I'll tell you real simple. Not because the preacher told you, a teacher, a professor, or whoever, or a guru or a spiritual master told you, okay? That's not what makes it true. You know what makes something true? Let me give you an example. When somebody tells you something, you might have heard something I said today. You might have read something in a book where you go, oh, shit, and you get this tingly feeling all over your body. That's called raising yourself up to self-realization of the divine reality of truth. That's when truth manifests within you. That's when it becomes a reality. Not because somebody told you. Here's another thing. We were talking about last night on the show, if anybody's familiar with Chandra Alexandra. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that. But she was a sister that traveled way over to the Far East in India to see some spiritual guru that she was following for years, right? Now pay attention to this. She thought by going over there, it was going to alleviate all her problems in life. She thought she was going to escape all the bullshit that she was dealing with. Well, it turns out she got over there and saw the spiritual guru was really no different than her, and they were dealing with the same things that she thought she was running from or trying to eliminate or avoid. That's powerful. So she came back to America realizing that she couldn't escape from it because she was using esotericism and spirituality. She just transformed it into another form of religion. See, what tends to happen is people get involved in certain things to try to escape something that they're running from. So people will leave Christianity, Islam, and Judaism and become an Egyptologist. But like I said on the last show, then they look at Ra and the deities like physical deities like they do in religion. That's where the problem comes in. So this sister did the same thing, and she realized that she was still externally looking for the solution to the problems that were plaguing her internally. She realized she had insecurity issues. She had self-doubt issues. She didn't want to address the things that she feared in life, failure, afraid to experiment with certain things on the spiritual realm. So rather than her do the spiritual work, she figured somebody else can do it for her. But she was raised to the reality that that's not the case. So I bring all that up to say, if you really want to understand the mysteries of reincarnation, yeah, you can read 1,000,000 books on it. You can listen to 1,000 lectures on it, a bunch of teachers. And it's good just to give you a general idea or a basic principle on it. But is that the sole authority on it? Absolutely not. The sole authority on it is you need to establish who and what you were in your past reincarnations, how that applies to you now, and what you are now and where you're headed from this point moving forward. When you can answer those questions, now you have confirmed what reincarnation is. Now, can you pass that personal experience on to the next person? Just as a learning tool. But you can't force that person to accept that personal experience. Because like I said before, if they say, yeah, like if you heard what I just said about myself, say, yeah, Brother Mike, I believe everything you're saying. I don't want you to. Because if you did, now I've started a religion called Mikeism. And now you're believing my personal shit, just like when the white man sat down and wrote the Bible stories and created this character, Jesus, Moses, Abraham, and all these other characters that he grafted from millions of other stories that came prior to it, that even go back prior to that. Once we said, I believe in Jesus, now we validated this white man's invention, and now we're not living our experience no more, we're living his experience. We're living the translators of the Bible who sat down and strategically wrote these stories during the Council of Nicaea to indoctrinate the masses, to control them. Once we say, what do they tell you in Christianity? You must accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior, right, in order to be saved. Right. My question is, saved from what? Now, there's two ways you can save something. You understand? I can save you from drowning, or I can save money and put it in a bank and save it and hold on to it until I use it for its intended purpose. So what are we saving? What form of salvation or saving are we talking about, number one? And number two, when I sit there and listen to this whole concept, I must accept. That's the key in that sentence. You must accept for it to be a reality. So what do they say? Well, if you don't accept Jesus, you're not saved. You're not going to heaven. You see the game? There's phonetics and there's power in that. You need to accept. And then most of these non-denominational or most of these fanatical Christians nowadays, then they make you say an outwardly affirmation that you accept Jesus Christ as your personal Savior. Now, the reason why I'm bringing that up, there's power and energy in the words. Now, remember, when you profess verbally and you are saying the words resonate, carry a tone and frequency, because when you're calling upon their gods and their deities in their names, the way they pronounce them, you're accessing the energy forces that come along with those deities. So when you're saying praise Jesus, right, the same Caucasians that came up with that term Jesus, you are accessing the same energy that they're accessing. So you're giving strength to their spook and spirit forces. That's why that's detrimental to not do. So they do this strategically because they know they can get you off your natural magical system. Because they don't want you to tap in to you accessing, because remember, when you're dealing with deity and mantras and chants, if I took the correct pronunciation of Re Harakati, and people pronounce it a multitude of ways, and I start chanting it in its rhythmic sequence, what it does is open up portholes and dimensions where I can invoke the energy of what that deity represents. So they took that away from you, and they took Jah, right, Zeus, a combination of two deities. Zeus is the Greek god. Let's establish that. Jah is a poor translation of Yahweh. Yahweh is not even the correct Hebrew name, because the letter J doesn't exist in the Hebrew alphabet. Any basic scholar knows that shit. So when you're getting the word Jehovah, it's a poor breakdown of Yahweh, right? And then the Rastafarians will shorten it and say Jah. They're confused too. Whole nother story. Now that comes from Yahuwah, because they added the vowel sounds later. And Yahuwah just means, oh, he is who he is. That's it. And it was linked into the name Hashem, which just means the name. When you couldn't pronounce the name, the Hebrew mystics would just say Hashem, which just means the name, because they didn't want to make the mistake of pronouncing the name of the so-called creator. Now, here's my theory on this, and I'm going to tell you this based on fact. Nobody knows the name of the creator because there's no such thing, and let me tell you why. If we actually knew the name of the creator, right? If I knew the name of the creator if you believed in that concept anyway, which that's a bunch of bullshit, but I'm just using this concept because this is what they claim, okay? If I sit there and said, we're on the phone with Brother Sharif. If I say Sharif and Sharif is walking, Sharif is going to stop and turn around and look because I said his name, I commanded his attention for that moment, and Sharif would stop and look to see who's calling it. That applies to anybody listening. If you really knew the name of the creator, let me show you how fucked up humans are in the mind. They're so egotistical that they think that they can stop the very fabric of the universe and the universe will stop for the one moment and just focus on them and forget about everything else. Let me show you how fucked up they got our minds. So if you knew the name of God, let's say, per se, and you're a religious person, and you really believe you can command the attention of God, if God stopped for 1 minute and focused his attention on you, and you believe God controls everything in the universe, then everything else that ceased to exist would not exist anymore. If you really understood that principle. People don't grasp that. So this is why there's no such thing as being able to call upon the correct name of God, and this is why they never figured it out. You want to know why? Because they're trying to define that confined to a three-dimensional existence of person, place, and thing. What you call God, for lack of a better word, and I say lack of a better word strongly, the creator, nature, the cosmic, whatever you need to get you through the day, because everybody has their own perception on what the creator is to them, and that's fine, but it exists outside of person, place, and thing. You cannot define it while giving your perspective on it trapped in a three-dimensional existence. This is where the confusion comes in. So we're all over intellectualizing who got the right God. The Muslims, they got it. The Black Hebrew Israelites, they got it. The Nawapians, they got it. Nation of Islam, they got it. None of those motherfuckers got it. They're giving you their interpretation based on the information that they have made themselves accessible and giving you their opinion on it. And if you believe that one specific individual, and that's a sickness amongst us in the conscious community, because I told you the day the conscious pimp is over, if you think one particular guru or master teacher has all the answers to everything, then you're more fucking mentally dead than you're aware of. Because if you think, and there's no knock on them, but I got to keep it real, if you think Farrakhan or Yahweh Ben Yahweh in the past, or Dr. York, or Sarah Student Steady, and it's not to knock these brothers, Phil Valentine, if you think any one of these one individuals have the key to your salvation, then you are a fool for putting your soul completely in these individuals' hands. Now, it doesn't mean you can't listen to them just like you're listening to me now as a teaching guide, but you should always be the sole governor and ruler of your spirituality. You should never put that solely in somebody else's hands, because when you do that, you are opening yourself up for self-destruction. Now, unfortunately, there's a group of us that still have the I need to follow somebody mentality because they can't do it on their own. So they think by joining some organization that they got their one-way ticket to eternal life. And this is another sickness that has to be destroyed. And again, I don't want it to get twisted. I'm not saying you can't listen to these teachers. By all means, I said earlier, all of them have something to offer. But I got to cut it off when somebody says, if you don't follow me the way I said it and do it the exact way I said it, you're not going to make it. My question is, make it where? That's all I got to add. Make it where? Where are we making it to? You understand? So
you hit that on the head. You hit that on the head because and listen, I got to give props to the institutionalized religion. I don't care if it's Farrakhan and the Muslims. I don't care if it's a Pope and Catholicism. I don't care if it's who in Christianity. Listen, they kept that wool over a lot of people for a long time.
Oh yeah.
And the thing is that if we can't learn from them, we can't learn from anybody, because they're now saying pretty much we've been BSing. The preachers, the Creflo, the dollars, the food stamp bills, the fakes, the jakes, all of them are changing their game to try to incorporate pretty much what Mike is saying is individualism, self-mastery. Trust me, they're meeting more often. The Eddie Long humping the man, boys. I mean, all of these people are pretty much changing their philosophy and trying to get in tune with this new revelation of self. So why would we even go back to that and try to think we can join some conscious community or group, and and Bubba and them and Wu Kwa and Amun-Ra, whatever their names come up with. And somehow, okay, we looking to some other dude or some lower level of Pope or some lower level of Jakes or dollar, food stamp, whatever you want to call them. And it's just not the time to do that. The message is what this brother is bringing, Mike, is that look, you better go on the side. Nobody going to let you down. Everybody's going to let you down other than yourself. And we might have to experiment to where we do let ourselves down by not applying it, because you mentioned application of these principles.
That's right.
That's right. But another point I wanted to make, Mike, when we talk about this God and giving energy, they got a couple of things going on, these internal, external wars, and, they got the protesters and the Black Lives Matter and the Oregon. And what I noticed with the Oregon thing is now you have white people that's protesting, and I seen how the media did them. When you talk about giving energy, I just saw them, they talked about it for 2 days, and then they ain't even giving no energy. And now they talk about we going home. You follow what I'm saying? Right. So when you talk about pulling your energy away from something, the media just say, we're not going to talk about them. And then I see I had to go find them on the internet. What happened? Oh, they going home. They're packing it up. They're going home. Y'all tired of eating squirrels? You tired of eating ducks and cockroaches? That's right. Like, what's wrong? Like, pulling your energy. And another thing I was talking about, I see this Bill Cosby thing, and another play on our psyche, trying for black people and white to try to show that, white people is powerful, which is what they're trying to do, the system, and then black people is not, and they're trying to put the black woman against the black husband in the family structure, and they're trying to show you that they can destroy that still because you got a black president. So they're now trying to get Camille Cosby to testify against her husband. Like, are you serious? Like, I mean, this is like really, this is a little stupid. She gonna testify against her husband. Go ahead.
Right, but you know what? Real quick on the Bill Cosby. But you know what went under the radar and nobody's talking about? Now this is just what I've researched on Bill Cosby. He's in a real bad disposition, because as we know, as we mentioned this on the last show, any black impactful man that's had a very strong impact on society and culture, they always try to demonize at the end of their life. We know this. We talked about this last time. They do this with everybody. Jesse Jackson, they did it with Noble Drew Ali, Marcus Garvey. They even did it to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Always at the end of their tenure or at the height of their career, when they're fading out in old age, they always make sure as they're going out, they damage their reputation. So the last thing you remember, now the only thing people are going to remember about Bill Cosby is all this bullshit that's going on with all these women. Now, does that negate the impact? It's still, regardless, whether you believe he did it or not, he still can leave this realm. He had an impact on culture and society. Now, I do believe he's guilty of some of the shit he did, but there's a lot of the shit he's not guilty of. And I don't care if that pisses people off. And Bill's human. Bill just liked him a little pussy, a little too much, and preferably some white pussy, and he couldn't control himself. Let's just keep it real. It don't make him a bad dude. It's just, we just don't know what's going on in somebody's mind. It just means Bill just liked him some pussy, and he couldn't keep his hands to himself. Now, what went under the radar, the incident in 2008, and they threw it on the news real quick, and they didn't talk about it no more. And I hope some people might have caught it. You might have even caught it. Some people might not have. That little blonde-headed chick at the Playboy Mansion in 2008. It was just announced last week, and one other case in 2004. The 2008 incident was dropped because they investigated and confirmed, and I'm going to tell you why I'm saying this, that the night that she's accusing Bill Cosby of raping her, that Bill Cosby wasn't even at the Playboy Mansion that day. Okay? So they just dismissed the 2008 case, all right? Now, I'm bringing that up because what's happening here is, do I believe there's some women that he did some wrong shit to? Most definitely. But now what's happening is you got a bunch of nuts coming out of the woodworks. Now they're going to try to get paid. And this is why I said Bill Cosby's at a disposition, because every female that had any connection with him is now going to come forward and say they were raped, they were drugged, and now they're going to try to write a book. They're going to try to get paid. They're going to try to get themselves in the media. So he's in a fucked up disposition. I wouldn't want to be Bill Cosby right now, Because now
they
it's
try
just
to
like,
put him
look
on
at
food stamps, Mike. They want to strip him of all his money, but this shows you the effectiveness of this system to where you can say something stupid and make you $1 million, and then they drop. How you gonna drop charges? That means you never had charges. So this is again the system in full display of its ignorance, insufficiency, and defective and corruptness, the way you can go after anybody and make them spend all this money, but the testifying of the wife against the husband, and then I was told this morning that the wife went over, Camille went over to Boston or Massachusetts to try to rely upon this law, and I'm just like, man, what law y'all rely? Like, why does Bill as a billionaire and just be like, I'm not talking for any damn body because nobody owned me. My wife's not talking because we won. What are you relying upon some law? Like, this is the Papergate thing, Mike. It's crazy how we think everything we do, instead of just saying, man, get the F out my face, get out my life. Ain't no civil. I got a legal person, and I play with him the way I want, just like you play with it. But then the other thing is, how did Eddie Long go so long humping boys? He didn't go to jail. And then the Pope saying that I got 1,000 pedophiles in the Roman Catholic Church. I mean, they didn't go to jail. So, again, we got to look at where's the pick and choosing. Why he didn't go down in 2002 or 08?
when a minister comes out there, and speaking of Eddie Long, this dude's a fucking trip. When this dude came out there, nobody checked his ego. When you come out there, I've never seen a dude in a muscle robe. Who preaches in a muscle robe? He's the first dude come out there with a long spiritual robe on and the sleeves are cut off, because he got so much ego that he want all, not just the women, but the little boys to see his muscles. He kind of sick. Nobody saw something wrong with that. The first time I ever saw that dude, and I saw him come out there in that robe with the sleeves cut off because he want to flex his muscles, I said, man, this dude has got ego. His ego is bigger than him, man. And he's trying to I was just amazed how anybody would want to follow a dude like that. You understand? And then, like you say, as we see years ago, he's going on little private trips. And most of these dudes are faggots. And that's just a reality. Most of these dudes hide behind religion because it's a breeding ground for them to live out their sexual desires. Because Eddie Long knows if that was his thing, little boys, he knew that he can create an environment where he can have his pickings. Just like Dr. York did the same thing. Any of these pedophiles is known. Now, it doesn't mean that things that they did didn't have an impact, because there's a lot of things that Dr. York teaches that I agree with, but there's a lot of things that too fucking bullshit for me. But it doesn't negate the fact. See, we don't know how to separate the message from the messenger. This is what I tell people. It's the same thing with R. Kelly. All right, whether you believe R. Kelly did the things he did, it doesn't negate the fact that he's a talented singer. That has nothing to do with it. Now, people have a hard time putting that into perspective. He's still a talented singer, whether you believe he did that or not. Now, I'm not justifying it or saying he did or he didn't, but I'm just trying to say don't be able to get confused with separating the message from the messenger. Now, dealing with the chakras, detachment is an important key with the heart chakra. What detachment means is a true master can detach themselves from the situation and not getting emotionally involved and being able to put it in its correct perspective. So we can't do that because our heart chakras are so out of whack, we become reactive instead of proactive. There's a difference. So you mentioned the shootings and all the shit in the news, and there's all these race crimes. So this is because our heart chakras aren't vibrating on the right frequency. We're not able to detach ourselves from the moment, and we get caught up in the moment. We get emotionally involved like they want us to do, just like we do when we go on Facebook. We announce to these demons our behaviors because we want to respond to shit. We're going to go kill some crackers. We're going to go take it to the street. The white man is this, that. And the cracker's writing down, okay, this is how Jamal thinks. Jamal's got mental issues here. I'm going to write this shit down. Oh, this brother here. So social media is also a monitoring tool so they can monitor your fucking behavior. Because we got Negroes on there telling people every goddamn thing they do. Just bought the 58-inch flat screen TV on my way to the Bahamas. So now I know I can rob your house because you ain't going to be there because you're on a vacation now. This is a monitoring system of behavior and a lack of us being able to detach ourselves from our human emotions and give a broader perspective on how we look at things, like the Cosby thing. Don't just get caught up in the black shit or Bill because he's black. You can't defend everybody just because they're black. See, we're under the assumption you've been taught, because we've been persecuted for so many years. So anything that happens to a black person, it's a setup. Like
That's
I
right.
said this about what's the dude's name that just got caught up in the stripper scam? I'm drawing a blank. A couple months ago.
The white dude or black dude?
No, the black dude. What's his name, man? I'm drawing a blank.
Oh, Umar
He got caught
Johnson.
The big booty stripper. Umar Johnson. When that first broke, let me use this as an example. When that first broke, I got a million emails. Hey, brother Baniti, what do you think about Umar Johnson? I don't care. And let me tell you why. Okay? I don't care. Umar Johnson fucked up. If Umar Johnson would have just simply said, I like big booty bitches, that's it. I'd have been cool with that.
That's it.
It'd have been over. It'd have been over. But see, Umar Johnson set himself up by saying he was celibate, number one. Nobody wants to talk about that. There's documented evidence on his cell phone. He's not denying he had affiliation with this chick, okay? Then he fucked up and called the girl a hoe, a spiritual hoe. That's where I lost all respect for him. Well, let me tell all you wannabe Kemetic, pro-black, conscious Negroes, the white man didn't put a gun to Umar Johnson's head to stick his dick in that woman's pussy, all right? He did that on his own. So I wouldn't have lost respect for Umar Johnson if he would have said, look, I'm a man. I like big booty bitches. I got caught up. That doesn't change the great things that Umar Johnson has done.
That's right.
But he's making an ass of himself by trying to refute it. Negro, you got caught. You put yourself up on the pedestal by professing you're celibate because you want everybody to think you're very spiritual. That was where you fucked up too. Now we know, Negro, you was not celibate.
Right.
So rather than prolong your misery, just say, look, I'm a man. I got caught up into the weakness of my emotions. You know, I like me some big booty strippers, and I gave in to my weakness.
But Mike, history dictates to us that for black people, the black community, y'all forgive any Eddie Long penis bumping them boys. They was like, his church still halfway full. Y'all figure, I'm going to stick next to my pastor. I'm going to stick next to I don't care if it's white or Jimmy Swagger. I don't care who it is.
That's right.
You go to them people. But this is the other problem I got with the Umar Johnson thing. And he's a great brother. I love him to death. He's going to be on the show
I love him
in
to
a
death
couple
too.
of weeks. But this is the thing is that why did you feel you had to be walking that Jesus walk and say that you celibate and all that? Just to impress
I don't know.
That's the problem I got. Man, be real. What's wrong with you liking
you
the
know
booty? Why you got to be celibate?
But you know what they do, Brother Sharif? See, a lot of these people, the very thing they're claiming to take you out of, they're using the same concepts to control you. See, a lot of these people pattern themselves after these religious figures, subconsciously, subliminally. And that's a great point. You bring that up. Dr. York did it. Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Farrakhan's doing it now. Let's be real. What I mean by that archetype, they use that persona that I am a savior figure. It's the same Jesus shit. It might just be twisted and distorted a bit. It's that I am your key to salvation bullshit. See, that shit is over. Now, again, on Umar Johnson, for an example, I have people email me, they're setting him up because he was getting ready to open up this school for black children. Really? Really? Are you that vain to think that that's what this shit is about? Like Umar Johnson was the only person or is the only person doing productive things, that this whole plot was set up, that the white man took the busy time out of his schedule for controlling the world to focus on Umar Johnson's one school, that he set this whole plot up. He bugged his phone. He did all this. I had one sister that literally told me it was a plot by the government. And I couldn't believe the ridiculous shit. I said, as a sister, you should be offended that he called that girl a spiritual hoe. I said, that don't piss you off as a female? You understand? Yep. And then I heard the female's perspective, and I saw her. She was fine as hell, and I can't blame the brother, for dipping in there. Hey, it is what it is.
Right.
Let's keep it real. Let's pretend. See, the other thing we got to stop doing as people is let's stop pretending we're holy art thou. Let's just cut that shit out from the jump. Stop fucking fronting like you don't, like we love pussy as men. Women, there's women that love sex as women. We love music. Right. We're not saying be controlled by those things. There's a balancement. You can take in moderation. You have to have time for those things. Because remember, in dealing also with path of self-mastery, if you don't appease your desires, you can become controlled by them. And we didn't even get into the Kundalini and Tantric sex magic, okay? So if you don't appease your sexual desires in moderation in dealing with the Kundalini and Tantric sex, you can be controlled. These are your brothers that have no self-control. or your women that have no self-control over their sexual desires because they're not attacking it from the correct perspective. See, that's another thing we don't want to address. See, we like to portray this holy or Tao vibe. We think spirituality and consciousness means I got to be meditating as a monk or some hermit 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, burning frankincense and myrrh. That's not what being spiritual is. It's working with the energies in their proper functions. So when dealing with your desires and appeasing them, be it food, be it sex, which are the two desires that most people struggle with on a regular basis, is food and sex, you need to figure out an outlet to appease them so they don't control you. And a true master, male or female, knows that. So if you have certain sexual desires and your mate isn't fulfilling them, you better talk to her ass about it. Vice versa, if you're a female and your male mate isn't satisfying your sexual desires, you better talk to him about it. Because what's eventually going to happen, they're going to find a way to get them gratified one way or the other. I'm just keeping it 100 with you. Because I mentioned, I believe this briefly last time, most of us don't take the time out to really talk to our partner and find out what they like and they don't like. Because you better do that. Because as men, I'm going to keep it 100% for you. I don't give a fuck if you've been married 6 months, 1 year, or 15, 20 years. They're going to get it from somewhere. And most of the time it comes from a lack of communication. Let's be real. It comes from a lack of communication. You might know some shit about your mate that you like. You might know something or not know something. There's something you like, and she might have liked it all the time, but you never knew because you never bothered to ask. Because if you're just having sex, well, okay, lay down on your back. All right, turn over. Let me hit it from the back. All right, go ahead, get to the side. All right, let me finish. That's not productive sex. That you don't know what you're doing. That's when you don't understand the art of tantric sex and raising the Kundalini. And the Kundalini is not always a pleasant experience. That's getting into a whole nother. It's not always positive. Sometimes it's a very painful experience when you raise that Kundalini energy because you access a whole variation of energy forces. And you better be prepared for it because you're going to find out some of them are not going to be pleasant, but it is pertinent for your growth to experience them. So that's very important to understand. And you're going to find out the reason why most relationships fail is a disconnect from the throat and the heart chakra because there is no communication there. Okay? Not talking about communication on the surface. If you can't internally communicate with your woman in depth, baby, what do you like? Hey, are we adults here? You know, what do you like? You know, is there something you like that I don't know about? Tell me. Because I might like the shit, but you never asked me. You understand what I'm saying? Right. We got to start communicating like that. Because if we don't, male or female, we will go somewhere else to satisfy it and come back. And this is why most relationships fail. Now, genetically, it's a scientific fact. This is fact. And it's something that melanated men struggle with on a regular basis. It's not in our nature to really be confined to one woman. And we struggle with that. And I'm not saying this to justify. Let me be clear. I'm not telling men, I was listening to Brother Sharif's show. They said it's okay to go out and have 10 women. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying it is a thing we struggle with because in Western society, polygamy, multiple partners, that is not a permissible thing. It's just something that's not the norm. So we need to communicate these things. We as men, it's not in our nature. Now, some women, it's not in their nature either, but for the most part, women are monogamous beings for the most part. Don't mean they don't look. It don't mean they don't look at other things, but women do it on a different level. We're stupid. We're controlled by our lust. But a woman is so slick, she'll get you to look while she's looking. She'll go, oh, ain't that Jerome over there? And you go look. You know, she got you to look so she can look to check out. That's the nature you're dealing with. So you don't control shit. Women are smart like that. Women are smart like that.
That's right.
Believe me when I tell you.
That's right.
So there's no communication. And don't be afraid to talk about these things. Because let me tell you something. If you're a man and you're so egotistical and you think that you're the finest thing that ever set foot on the earth and your woman is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week desiring you and she doesn't have any other thoughts running through her mind, you are a complete fucking idiot. Complete fucking idiot. I don't know what else to describe it. Because, see, we as men, when we get married or we have a mate, we claim possession on it. We think that that's ours. That ain't your shit. You don't own shit. You don't possess shit.
Right.
You understand? See, but that's how we think as men. That's my wife. What the fuck do you mean when you say, that's my wife? You're in a relationship together, but you don't control that individual. Just like most brothers, let me give you an example if you're confused, because I can feel some people might be confused. Most brothers think they can kick their woman's ass. But I'm going to say this. How do you really know you can beat your woman's ass? Do you really know that? And now I hear crickets. Do you really know that? You've been taught because, well, I'm a male, and automatically society teaches me males are more dominant and I'm physically superior. How do you know your woman ain't quick with the hands? She could be half your weight, half your size, but she might have more speed where all it takes is the correct symmetrical blow and she can knock your ass out. But your egotistical ass thinks flat. I'm talking about flat. I've watched it. I watched dudes get knocked flat out on their back, unconscious by a female. And now you're laying flat on your back because you thought, that's my woman. And she's going to do what I tell her to do. Same thing, sisters. You don't control your man. It goes the other way, too, so I'm not going to paint a one-sided picture. See, if we don't approach the relationship with the control, possessive thing, and we realize, what's the key in that word? Relationship. It's a business. It's a partnership. So it's like starting a corporation or a business. And doing that, there is a lot of details that have to be worked out. So you can get involved with a person, and 9 out of 10 times when it's new, it's pure attraction. But when that attraction and that lust and love wears off, and that newness becomes oldness, reality kicks in, then you really see what type of relationship you got. Now, what is this really based on? This is what we don't want to address. So those are important things to definitely consider. Yeah.
Damn, you got some people getting dentures, boy, today, boy. Teeth falling out. I hear all kind of gritting. People just like, ooh. Because that's true. I mean, look, women, listen, man, I don't think we give enough to our women, but then again, our women got to also step up in this spiritual self-mastery aspect, because with the way men are, women got a big job once they take that position, and they do need to take that position, because that's what ISIS is about. You got to. It's time for y'all to take that position, but y'all got to get real right. I wanted to say something about when you talk about women and relationship. Even the women be selling. Ain't a woman in the world tell you that her coochie ain't been preserved. It ain't got no miles on it. They ain't never really done nothing freaky. You know how you that's fake stuff. I'd be like, come on, man, stop. Like I shared with y'all the last time Mike was on the phone, just right quick, was on the call, how my kid's mom I was with for a long time, I had a real freaky, nasty friend that talk like Mike. He'd be like, yo, you ain't exposed your woman, Sharif. I'm just telling you right now, man. I can look at her and tell. I'd be like, boy, you look at my woman, boy. I was into that possession. He's like, I'm just telling you right now. So I seen this little place that I didn't know what it was. It ain't had no windows, and it was a swinger place. And my buddy knew about it. He's like, man, there'd be all type of politicians, high rollers up in there, man. Just go in there, sign up, get on the list, and go in there on Saturday. And he said, and I said, man, I'm square. I'm definitely square. I'm in my mid-20s. He's like, man, I bet you your kid's mom want to go. I was like, man, you crazy. I asked her that. I told her, come downstairs. I bet him $500. I can't. I said, would you want to go there? And she looked, when she took more than a second to answer me, I didn't even look at her the same, Mike. I was like, what? You would say, well, did she back? Well, I mean, I wouldn't want to participate. I would want to look. I was like, I was looking at her. I was just like, Stan is right. Because Stan was like Mike. Stan was right.
Right, but see, brother, it's like you wouldn't have known if you didn't ask. See, that's communication. I'm saying we don't have that. And I'll give you another situation. A couple of years ago, I had a woman that used to like to get dressed up in those like medieval masquerade costumes. Whatever. If that's your thing that floats your boat, I'll do whatever the fuck you want to do. That's cool. But now if that wasn't ever came up, like what you're saying with your incident or the incident I'm talking about, if we would have never known that based on communication, then we wouldn't be able to address it. Because, see, we tend to get into repetitiveness in everything in life. It could be relationships. It could be just our everyday life routine. And what tends to change that up, and that's especially important in relationships, you hear the cliche all the time, you got to keep it fresh. You got to keep the energy new. Find out where your woman likes to go. Find out where your man likes to go. And sometimes compromise comes in. Occasionally do something. You may not like it. I'm not talking sexually, because never do anything sexually you don't want to do. Let me be clear on that. I'm not saying just do things sexually just to do them. I want to stress that. Sometimes the energies just aren't right. You're not compatible, and it just doesn't work. I'm saying other things outside of sex, sometimes do activities just to compromise. Like if you're, most women, not all, most women might hate sports. But occasionally go to that basketball game with your husband. Go to that football game with your husband. Now, your woman might like certain movies you may not like to see, or certain stores you might not like to go. I might say it all the time. Occasionally, send that energy, balance that energy out. Say, yeah, let's go look at some. I know you want to go to the furniture store today. Let's go. I'll go with you. You understand what I'm saying? Stop taking this approach like, oh, fuck that. I got that on lock. Nah, you go do that. I ain't doing that shit. And women, too. Stop thinking that your coochie is the greatest thing on the planet because you're under the illusion men are. Men, you ain't knocking something down so bad that the woman's never going to leave you. And woman, your coochie ain't the most superior thing on the planet because that's not how we think as men. Because at the end of the day, my uncle used to say women are like buses. You miss one, you catch the next one. That's just the reality of it. I don't want to sound so callous, but bottom line is when we start thinking like that, we set ourselves up for failure. But if we're really invested in a relationship, when you find that person where the energies are compatible, you have the sexual attraction. That's there. You got to have physical attraction. You have common interests. More importantly, you can hold a conversation together. You can intellectualize. You have things you can discuss and talk about and things you can do together. When you have that, so you have the prerequisites and the base to have a great relationship. So you work with that. That's your foundation. I mean, if you have those things, you can make that blossom into something that's powerful and strong. As long as you got that, you've got possibilities to take that to a level, period. But if you're in a relationship where you analyze and say, damn, we ain't got nothing in common, I don't have shit to talk with this person about, all we have is sex, well, I'll give that a little bit of time before that wears out, and that shit's going to be over with quick. And I told you can't change somebody. Stop finding somebody because you think they're cute, and you're going to change them to the way you want them to be. And I see that all the time. He's cute. He's dumb as a rock, but he's cute. But now he can be the way I want him to be, vice versa. Brothers, if you just need some knockdown material on the side and you're spiritually conscious, stop finding some hoochie ghetto mama just because she's fine, but she's dumb as a rock, ain't got no spirituality. Just do it for what it is. Appease your desires, and that's it. Don't try to mold that woman into being your spiritual mate and put a dashiki on her, and she's going to be meditating with you in 3 weeks. That's just not going to happen. Let's just keep that shit real 100%.
And women don't do that because women good for doing that too. Women,
hell yeah.
I think women do it more than men. When they talk about molding somebody, I think that's that woman thing. I'm gonna change him. I'm gonna mold him.
Mm-hmm. Does not work, brother. So I just want to throw that in there. But anyway, I don't want to turn it into a whole relationship thing.
Yeah, I want to talk about God. I want to talk about God because you mentioned God, and I don't think, again, it's only two things where we derive all of our thoughts either come from upbringing, and most of the time it was upbringing from some religious institution. So, everything comes from one of those aspects. But when we talk about God, it's interesting when I was talking about who is God. I had spoke about this on my last show. I just went in and I was looking at, I went to Noah Webster's dictionary. I was just doing something, putting around. I had a few minutes, which rarely I have. And I just punched in the word God from 1828. And, I was talking about swearing when you go into these courts. I'm like, who are you swearing to? Well, you putting your hand on the Bible, and we were talking about giving certain things energy. And I looked up God, and it said one of the definitions was a prince. You got a prince. What's the boy? Harry, all them people over there. You got a prince, a ruler. They call Obama a ruler. A magistrate or a judge. So I always said, y'all don't know who y'all swearing to when y'all swearing to them. You understand? You swearing that you're going to tell the truth to them because I thought, Mike, I said, well, then how do they say you commit perjury because you swore to God, but they don't know who your God is. You don't know who you're swearing to, so they're punishing you because you told a lie to your God. I'm like, where do they get that authority from? Well, they don't. So now you see who you're swearing to. You're swearing to a magistrate or a judge is considered a God.
Well, let me, on that note real quick, let me show you the trick in that. There's two things. There's major deceptions in that, major lies in that. All right, for an example, if you're a Muslim, you're a Hindu, or you practice a faith outside of Christianity or Judaism, you have the right to request, well, I don't believe in the God of the Bible, say per se. Say I'm a Hindu and I believe in Brahma and Vishnu. By law, you don't have to swear on that Bible. That's the law. Go research it. You can. It's the same thing if you go into a Masonic lodge, and you know this as being a Mason. That's right. The volume of law is the Bible per se. But if a Hindu or somebody from another faith gets initiated in a lodge, and I'm showing you this is Masonic. There's a connection to it. That person can request, say, the Bhagavad Gita on the altar as opposed to the Bible. That's your choice, depending on your faith. Now, here's the trick when it comes to the law. Let's even go back before you go to court. When you're arrested, you're read your what? Your Miranda rights, correct? They say you have the right to remain silent, right? And then they read that whole rhetoric to you. You have the right to an attorney, blah, 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 and all that other bullshit, right? What is it they end with? What's the last thing they say in the Miranda rights? Do you understand your rights?
Do you understand?
And then what do
right.
you do? And then what do you do?
Yeah.
And then what do you do?
Yes.
You say yes, and you just gave up your right to remain silent. So you're not supposed to say anything if you're invoking your Fifth Amendment rights. You understand that? So if I say to you, I'm about to read you your Miranda rights. You have the right to remain silent. You have the right to an attorney, blah, blah, blah. Do you understand your rights? As soon as I say yes, I give up my right to remain silent.
That's right.
And I've opened the door now to abide by all their rules, laws, and regulations now leading up into the court, which is just basically, it's a game because it's like a tennis court. You know, you have the offense and the defense, and you have the judge, who's the referee, who's overseeing this whole thing. So now they get you in the court system, and they say, I need you to come take the oath. You swear to tell the truth, nothing but the truth, and the whole truth, so help you God. Now the question is, they never stop to ask the person, what God do they believe in? Because if I'm a Hindu and I believe in the Bhagavad Gita, and you got me swearing on the Holy Bible, I can lie and I'm not violating any law because I don't believe in this God. You understand? Right. So all a person has to do is say at that moment, well, which God am I swearing to tell the truth upon? And here's the other fucked up part. The Constitution states you're not supposed to mix religion with state, right? Yes. Religion and state can't be mixed, right? Church and state, which should not be mixed. That's the Constitution. Right. Why in the world are we incorporating the Bible?
That's right.
It doesn't make any sense. So one by law can refute that. You can access your constitutional rights and say, I'm not swearing on the Bible. I don't believe in God. I don't believe in the Bible. I don't believe in any aspect that's connected to the Bible. I don't believe in Jesus. I don't believe in what this Bible stands for. So I'd be doing myself a disservice by taking an oath that holds no validity because I don't believe in this God. That's it. That's all you have to say. And the judge can't say shit to you. That's it. It's over. He can't say shit to you.
It's interesting in law. They say, you know, one of the denoted persons that do not have to testify is an atheist. I mean, they look at you, they make you, you know, and I mean, like, well, I guess you can throw me in that category. Well, if I'm swearing, I'm not going to swear to myself because I am God. What if I'm God, sir? Who am I swearing to? They'll never answer that question. And it also tells you made a good point why there is no separation in church and state. When you get into this chaotic legal system, anything goes. You understand? Anything goes. That's correct. All right, Mike, we're going to take some questions, man. I let my queens get at you and ask you some questions.
Sure,
Tiff,
go ahead. I know we're running out of time.
Is on there. Yes. So go ahead, Tiff, what you got? You got anything for Mike? I know we've been talking 3 hours. You probably got a lot.
Actually, a lot of it is some of the same things I study, only we do it in a different way. I don't know if Mike's ever heard of, Dr. Hawkins' levels of consciousness, that kind of thing, the chart of levels of consciousness.
A little bit, not in detail, but I have dabbled in it. I've read a little bit about it.
Okay, so basically what it is, calibrating below 200 is, your primal instincts, giving into anger, negative emotions, and then at level 200 is where you realize that you're in control of everything, and you learn to go into yourself and start to rid yourself of those karmic debts of either past lives or belief systems that you're involved in. So religion is just basically a belief system. You can choose to believe or not to believe.
That's correct.
It's just that simple. So we have belief systems every single day. Like as simple as I give up smoking, I'm going to gain weight. That's a belief system. You can give into it, and if you allow your mind to give into it and you believe it, it's going to be what happens. You create the reality of it.
That's correct. Now, we're talking about Stephen Hawkins, correct?
David Hawkins.
David Hawkins, okay, because there's two here. Okay, because I'm bringing up Stephen Hawkins because also, I don't know if we can talk about that another time, the CERN and the Stargate kind of was getting into that, the God particle and things of that nature. But anyway, no, finish what you were saying. I didn't want to get sidetracked.
Well, basically, I mean, it's you say all the same things, only it's said in a different way. But it's basically,
Correct.
you know, we all have had past lives, and
That's right.
with, you know, Dr. Hawkins, it's basically you come back to continue your path to enlightenment. You come back to progress further and confront those karmic debts from past lives or things that you didn't confront, basically.
Right. And dealing with David Hawkins, that's why I want to make sure we differentiate between the two. With Dr. David Hawkins, speaking with karma, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because we have to not look at karma. This is something that he'll talk about too sometimes. We have to not look at karma. Sometimes people look at karma in a religious sense that you're going to be persecuted for it. That's not what karma is. It works on both levels. And definitely what you send out is what comes back, but it's never always comes back the exact way you send it out. And sometimes the time frame, when dealing with past life and existences, it can be what we term as time anyway, can be a substantially long gap before that karmic debt is balanced out. And I'm glad you bring that up because we haven't really touched on that. Karma is key. It's really key. I know Dharma is dealing with another thing, but I'm glad you brought that up. Maybe we could talk about that another time.
But, you know, basically it's the idea that there is really no cause and effect. You create from this moment on. I mean, there's no cause and effect. What I think today is what happens tomorrow. So you can change your thought and change tomorrow.
Right. And that's why people use the karma thing as a persecution tool. They always think that if I said it, you can't do that. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah. So, I mean, I just think people have the wrong idea of what karma is, you know.
Big time.
And, you know, and on the levels of consciousness, I mean, just so we understand, organized religion calibrates pretty low compared to
pretty much
the mystics. You know, the mystics are the self-realization, the going into your mind, and, you know, like all self-healing. I don't know how much you know about Dr. Hawkins, but he cured his own cancer. Like, people have cured MS with the power of their mind. And if you realize how powerful you are, you know, which goes back to your conversation about they're trying to kill us with pesticides and hormones and everything else. It's like your mind is more powerful than that.
Well, you know what, sister, I'm glad you bring that up because dealing with the healing aspect, we were talking about the MS and the cancer. When you understand the 12 occult nerves and the ganglion nerves, which run from your back of your neck down to your spinal cord, you can give yourself positive and negative treatments. And people don't realize by the 3 points, your thumb, your index finger, and your ring finger. Now, depending on the infection or the ailment you're trying to heal, and maybe we could talk about that next time, Brother Sharif. When you can identify the specific ailment, you can adapt in this same process to give yourself a positive or a negative treatment by stimulating those ganglion nerves when you know exactly where they're located and what treatment you're trying to give. And it depends if you're right or left-handed. If you're left-handed would be the positive side, right would be the negative, vice versa, polarity and magnetism. But there is power in that. Self-healing, you know, you have to be careful because you can always catch it in its beginning stages, but sometimes, and I always tell people, when is medicine necessary? Sometimes if the infection or the plague is kicked in, medicine should only be used to get you to a regenerative state where you can heal it and maintain it from that point. Because unfortunately over the years, I have found people that have gotten to such a deep state in their illness because all antibiotics and medications can do is just temporarily restore you to a position where you can apply the proper treatment that you need. When you understand it in that perspective, because I want to be clear, I don't want somebody to be lying sick on their deathbed and trying to get herbs in the wrong doses that are ineffective or trying to do techniques that are ineffective because they might be at a detrimental point. Because really, when you break down the science of it, and I'm glad that the sister's bringing this up, power of the mind, man, that's back to the first Hermetic principle. All is mental, mental is all. If we really understand that, it's phenomenal.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah,
Mike,
and then when you're
talking... Go ahead.
Oh.
Go ahead, sis.
I was just going to say, when it comes to drug use, like their idea of drug use is basically getting to that enlightened state synthetically. You know,
Correct.
and that's the chasing of the high, and that's why you get addicted, because you're constantly chasing this synthetic inducement of enlightenment when it's something you can do on your own.
Well, also remember this, sister, synthetic, especially anything that's synthetic, and a lot of these medications is more detrimental to people that have higher levels of melanin because it damages the neuromelanin that the brain produces. And your neuromelanin are conductors or antennas that receive the cosmic energy, that receive messages, that receive spiritual impressions. Any type of energy that you can think of on any level is by way of the neuromelanin that's produced in the brain. There's neuromelanin and neuromelanin. Synthetic medications damage that capability, the proper functioning of neural brain melanin. So we cut ourselves off. Now, they know this, so this is why they're quick to ingest us with prescriptions and medications, and it's all synthetic. And that's why I'm saying that you got to really educate yourself when it comes to this. And a lot of people don't want to take the time to because they think some prescription is going to fix all their problems. So you really should educate yourself. And if you have to take synthetics, and I'm not no doctor, I want to make that clear. I'm not a doctor, and I'm not telling you not to take medication. But I am telling you if you are, that's why I had mentioned earlier the probiotics, because melanated people lose more natural bacteria when they're on synthetics, which affects all other organs of the body. You need that good bacteria to protect the kidneys, the liver, the pineal gland. You need it to protect every aspect of your circulatory system because melanin or neuromelanin coats every organ of our entire body. And when we're stripped of its natural process, this is what, you got European scientists spending millions and billions of dollars studying, and they're fascinated with melanin, which is the key and the source of all life. This is a fact. European scientists are doing this. And I'll get you the name out next time, Brother Sharif. Dr. Jewel Fulcrum, who I had on the show, I forgot the research company she said. It was some European scientist out of Germany. And she was talking about it on the show and sent me over the information. And it's phenomenal how not just melanated people, white folks are enthralled and mystified by the power of this thing we call melanin, neuro and neuro, because they know it's the key to life. And this is how they're aging. We're trying to put a time frame on our existence, and they found out that this thing called melanin, they can't put a time frame on it. So when you want to know how old or how far do we go back, there's your answer. You understand? There is no beginning, there is no end. You understand? Got to get out of that frame of mind. That's why I love when I listen to people sit here and argue over who was first. It just doesn't make any sense.
Man, you kicking it. Look, let me give out Mike's information right quick. Again, Mike, Awakening Universal Minds on Talk Show. Calling number 724-444-7444. The access code is 134778. He's on every Thursday, 9 p.m. I put the link in the chat a few times. Y'all have it on the email mailing list. And you can listen to Mike and his team. He's got a couple of brothers that's just as well
man.
Experience. He's got great
brothers
team.
too.
I mean, they be going in, and you know what I love about his show is that they're you can see this spirituality that they live it, because when they're on the call, they excel, digress, accelerate, decelerate, and they all get a chance to participate, and there's no overlap. Do you understand what I'm saying? That's science right there, because we can't get on a call any other time unless we fighting, arguing, disagreeing. These brothers are really spiritually in sync, because they just like me and Mike. Y'all would think that we talk all the time. I've talked to Mike probably twice. Do you understand what I'm saying? So this is how the connection is. We don't rehearse, and we don't put on makeup, and we don't have a script. You understand what I mean? So that's important to see these brothers. But YouTube, Mother Nubia Inc., I've sent y'all, put the links in the chat for y'all. Everybody got it. Mike's got several videos out there. And Mike, go ahead and tell them anything else that you're doing out there as far as the information you're popping out.
Yeah, definitely. The Mother Nubia Inc., it's got actually there's 50-something videos up there. Definitely check that out. The Awakening Universal Mind page. If you want to email me, email address is khnum19@gmail.com if you want to email. And we just had a drum ceremony down here. We got some other spiritual events coming up. Actually, me and Sharif are going to get together on a project You're trying to get established. So there's definitely the main key is creating that sacred space so we can perform these rituals, have a place to go where we can do our shit, not shit that's recorded somewhere in a book that you need to identify with, because that's not what this is about. This is about, if we're gods, we need to create. So we have the roadmap. The books and the information up until this point was the roadmap given to us. Now, what I meant earlier when I said leaving a lasting impression, we need to create our own stuff. So when we leave here, we've now left something for those that we've left behind. So now the ancestors that we're accessing in this existence will become those ancestors in the next existence, because we will have left our stamp on this realm. So that's what we're up to. But other than that, I mean, that's what we got going on. That's the contact information. Shout out to the brothers I do the show with, good brothers, Brother Rabbananu and Brother Sargidi. Those are my brothers I know for a long, long, long time, going over 20 years now. So we've been at this for a while. We're not new jacks to this. Just again, when you tune into this show and we're here, or you come on to it's not for the weak at heart. If you're sensitive, it's not the right show for you. If you're looking to hear shit that you want to hear to make you feel good, you're not going to hear it. It's not. I mean, go listen to the last show, the Islamic sister that called in, and listen to how we professionally dealt with it. And the reality was she was still searching. She came in combative first, but then when we broke it down, she admitted she's still struggling, searching to finding out who and what God is. And I sensed it from jump. So being connected to the heart chakra is being able to have compassion to identify with somebody's situation. Now, there are times where you got to open a can of whoop ass on somebody. Don't get me wrong. But you got to know how to identify those times. But that's about it, though.
Yes, sir.
I did have a question.
And Mike, they got it. Okay, they got this thing when you talk about Melanin and the doctors. They're selling that. That's like a drug. It's on YouTube. I think PS4 or PS something. They're selling Melanin, man. Bodybuilders are taking that.
That's right. That's right. Because remember, your melanin recharges itself. People keep forgetting. Daytime is the worst time for melanated people. That's when its melanin is recharged. Your melanin is at its peak in the night hours. There's a science behind that darkness in the night. You'll find most people are at their peak. Like I do my most spiritual work between 12 and 4 a.m. That's my most productive spiritual time. That's because when your melanin is activated at its right frequency, you'll know how to balance sleep and time. Remember, they have melatonin. Remember all that shit to activate the serotonin levels in your body. Yeah, that's it. That's what the bodybuilders are using too. Yep.
Okay, somebody had a question?
Yeah, I did have a question. Brother Michael, I think you just kind of hit the nail on the head with the question that I was going to ask you. Because you were talking about density and making ourselves light and making ourselves less heavy. So I was wanting to ask you a question regarding bending time and riding that wave, so to speak. So I think you had just touched on that when you talked about the melanin and that special time during the day. Can you elaborate on that a little bit more?
Right. Now, when we talk about time, I think I mentioned this briefly last. I'll try to be quick because I know how Block Talk does is they cut you off, so I'll try to be quick.
Right.
When talking about time, once we understand the true concept that it doesn't really exist, it just is. Like I said earlier, people are trying to put time frames on things when there is no such thing as established time. Like I mentioned, I think on the last show, I can't remember if it was here. When you look at the clock, you have seconds, and the clock goes tick and tock, and there's a space between the tick and the tock. Nobody's recording that time. But we vibrate in between that tick and the tock. We have to understand that. So melanin exists between that tick and the tock. Everything manifests from that melanin. So we got to stop trying to identify with a beginning and an end to our existence. Now, when dealing with neuromelanin, you're going to find out was the very fabric or foundation to our existence in the universe. You're going to find out that this is what formulated our intelligence. Now, here's the deep thing. Research this. You can be a dark-skinned, melanated African-American or from the Caribbean. You could be Latino, Native American, Chinese, etc. When each person raises their self up spiritually, each individual has the same ability, the same capacity of neuromelanin, regardless of the levels of neuromelanin in the body, once you're able to access it. Now, I'm not talking about the skin melanin. I'm talking about the neuromelanin, because the skin melanin is a manifestation of the genetical aspect of who and what we are by a byproduct of different genetic mixing. Now, we're all a manifestation of different backgrounds. Nobody's Nobody's 100% African and nobody's 100% Caucasian. Because if you get dry skin, if you get ashy skin, you get dandruff, that's part of the Caucasian gene. You have been mixed in with the gene. Your blood type will also determine if you're A blood, B blood, that's more Caucasian-dominated blood. That comes from mixing with Caucasians. O positive, O negative are the oldest blood types on the planet. O positive being the first and the original inhabitants of this planet, the androgynous beings. The original melanated beings had O positive blood, which now refutes beginning and ending in religion, because if we all have these different blood types, what blood type was Adam and Eve? That's what you need to ask a religious person. And where did all these blood types come from? You understand? Where did they all come from? Where do we get A, B, B negative, A minus, if we're all God's children? Well, you see, brother, I don't want your interpretation on it. I want your scientific explanation. If we're all God's children, why are the levels of melanin, do they vary? And why do we have different blood types? When you attack it, see, if we deal with science and we really rationalize this thing and deal with correct information, all the bullshit faith and belief will go out the window. The argument will be over. See, people don't want to come to the table and put their personal beliefs and opinions aside, and opinions are like assholes. Everybody got one. So when you learn to put that to the side, and we can sit down and talk like mature adults, regardless, it's not about what you like and you don't like. That's irrelevant, because you're always going to hear something you like and you don't like. But usually the stuff you don't like, it just doesn't resonate with you because it might be against your own personal ideologies. See, once we can discipline ourselves and say, all right, let me look at this thing and detach myself, as we mentioned earlier, because if your heart chakra is vibrating, you can detach yourself from the personal and the emotional connection to it and look at it from a neutral perspective. Then you'll see things will change. So that's kind of how you have to, look at that, put it into perspective.
Great answer. Great answer. Brother Mike, man, Baniti, Amun-Ra, man, it's been phenomenal again, man. You got to come back.
Appreciate it.
We committed to at least 1 or 2 a month. Mike has, as a let y'all know, he's going to be coming here and just dropping it for you, because we don't know when they're going to cut our social communications out, because that's what they coming after next. It's too much knowledge floating around. They can't keep up with it. The news is falling down, national media. All right, so, alternative media, which is what you're listening to now, is the rising.
They're listening, brother.
The most,
brother, they listen to this. They listen to this. They're listening right now as we speak, because they're learning themselves, and it's a way for them to educate.
That's true.
Yeah, it is.
That's true. Yo, much love, man. Straight up, I love you, man. I appreciate what you've done.
Appreciate it, brother.
You've done what many haven't done in one show, that you can go on other shows and they take them like 6 months to get to. So great show, man. Definitely come back. I'll be talking to you. Appreciate you, brother.
Right.
Y'all go visit with Mike.
Thanks,
brother. Peace. Y'all go visit with Mike. Awakening Universal Minds, Nubia Inc., Mother Nubia Inc. on YouTube. Y'all need to go listen to the brother, because he's this straight shooter. We ain't gonna be 20 years sitting up here in a temple or a church or somebody's seminar hall. We need it now. So the right now was given to you today. I want to thank all of y'all for showing up today. I want to thank the THOR team for coming. I hope you learned something. We'll be back here Tuesday, and then next Friday. Y'all don't want to miss that show, because I'm going to go in on this state-federal situation and all the white black isms and, the constitutionalist, Papergate, paper factory people. And let's get into what you heard today, which is self-mastery. We can't give that power to nobody else again. And our kids is definitely not going to allow it. This generation is going to move mountains, and we're hoping we're going to be a part of it. I thank all of you. Peace and elevation. We'll see you next week.
Calling, I can hear Mama Africa calling for me, calling for me. From the banks of the Nile, straight up to Jerusalem, I'm a son of the Nile. My Africans, I'm true to them. I love my African nation, and it's the origin of civilization. It has no limitation. Good liberty can't spoil you now, yes. Calling, I can hear Mama Africa calling for me, calling for me. Calling, I can hear Mama Africa calling for me, calling for me. She welcomed me with love and kindness. Everything in this place is the finest. Mama Africa, you're truly blessed. If they only let us see, then I know they will see. Africa is for you and me, yeah. Calling, calling, I can hear Mama Africa calling for me, yeah, yeah, calling for me. Calling, calling, I can hear Mama Africa calling for me, yeah, yeah, calling for me. Calling for me, calling for me. All over the world, Africa calling, yeah, yeah. Calling, calling, I can hear Mama Africa calling for me, yeah, yeah, calling for me. Calling, calling, I can hear Mama Africa calling for me, yeah, yeah, calling for me, yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, Mama Africa, love us calling, love us holiday, love us holiday. Let's take you on another holiday. We can go and dance the night away. I can be your lover, I can be your friend, I can be the one with you till the end. Take you on another holiday. We can go dance the night away. I can be your lover, I can be your friend, I can be the one with you till the end. I know it's gonna run on, but I need a minute of your time. Na na na. I know you think that I'm slightly crazy, but it's the start of your life.
This commercial sponsored by THOR Radio Network.
Hotep. It's your brother Baniti. Amun-Ra back with another post. Kind of what I want to talk about today.